Okay, welcome to the 19th episode of the ESOU podcast. With me is not Ali. I don't know where Ali is. And joining me today is our special guest, Nudel, or Nudel? How do you say your name?
It's Nudel.
It's Nudel, it's not Nudel?
No, it's not.
Okay.
You can say that if you want to, though.
Okay, but like, what's the name mean?
It's noodle, like the food.
But why is it spelled Nudel with a U, like new? You know what I mean, like Del.
Just because, so I had the handle Noodle for years, and I got bored. And you know how sometimes you get bored, and you're just like, I don't know, let me run this through Google Translate and see what I come up with.
Okay.
And,
okay.
I tried a bunch of different ones, and then this is the one that I liked, and it is German word for noodle or Swedish, either way. So.
Okay.
Appropriation.
All right. So that's the story behind your name. Now, what's your story? Because we always ask every guest, like, tell us about yourself, or what do you want to say? Blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Okay.
Let's. I guess. Yes, please stand up in front of the class and introduce yourself.
Yeah, not awkward at all.
Yeah.
I've been gaming since I would consider myself a gamer since 2009. I started playing ESO in beta, actually. I took 2 breaks, and I didn't really get into raiding until Somerset. So, yeah, I don't know. I remember a lot of the old school bugs and mechanics, but I also had a newer generation approach to raiding because of that, because I didn't do the Crags when they were new. I didn't do Maw when it was new. I started out as a casual, actually.
Okay.
So I came from Skyrim. I initially was one of the people who was like, no, they're ruining Elder Scrolls. Why are they making an MMO? Oh. It's the worst thing ever. And then I tried it in one of the weekend betas. I was like, the thing I liked about it was that it's action oriented, because I tried a lot of MMOs, and I don't like it almost feels turn based. I don't like the cooldowns. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
And so I really liked that, and it had just enough test elements to grab me, And then I just started selling my friends on it so we could play it together when it came out.
Okay.
And
then you were right.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
And then yeah, no, I started out super casual, questing, just with my boyfriend, and doing dungeons. And that was I knew trials existed because I'd had friends from beta who got really hardcore into raiding. But I always thought, oh no, that's way too sweaty for me. I'm not going to do that. I mean, this was back as well when raids, if you ran out of VIT, you couldn't clear.
Yeah.
So I was just oh no, that's too much. And then I remember I took a break from the game, unrelated actually to the game itself being good or bad. It was purely I inherited a trade guild, which was ass because I was trying to run a trade guild.
Yeah.
I was trying to run a trade guild when there were no add-ons for trading, so I was doing everything manually, like a console player. I would open up the history, scroll through it, trying to see what our sales tax was going to be for the week. I open our actual guild trader and scroll through the listings and see, do we have enough tempering alloy on there? I gotta list some of my own if we don't, you know what I mean? It was terrible. And then that was also I would have to advertise for the guild in 3 different instances of the same zone because they were faction locked.
Yes.
So I would do this every night, and by the end of the night, I was like, I didn't actually get to play. I spent the whole night managing this guild, so it just made me quit. And then I remember I came back around Orsinium Patch, and I got to CP 160. CP had been added while I was away.
Right.
And that's how slow I was leveling, by the way. I was that casual. And then I got into PvP, and I was in this this Aussie guild called Elder Skills that probably doesn't even exist anymore.
Elder Skills. Sounds familiar. I don't know why.
And yeah, it was just like running around in I guess a small ball group in Zerodead.
Yeah.
And then I was playing in Zerodead when they had the really, really bad hacker invasion where they were like protesting for the good of the game. We're not hacking because we're dicks. We're hacking to make the game better. And it was terrible. That made me take a break from the game again.
Wait, are you talking about Zazir and shit?
In
when they were doing when they were like showing off
yeah,
flying
in the sky,
Fegmush was streaming it, and well, not streaming it,
terrible.
but like he was looking like observing it, and the meteors falling down, the bridge fights. I mean,
oh, it was so bad. Yeah, I was in Zero that day. It was awful. And
yeah.
So then I took a break from the game again, and I didn't hate the game. I just got distracted. I went and played like GTA Online, which is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I went from ESO because there were hackers to another game with even more hackers. I had a friend that I'd added on Steam from ESO before that, and he would message me, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, they added housing." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I don't care." He's like, "Oh, they added this new trial," and I was like, "I don't do trials. What are you on about?" And he would just keep like trying to get me to come back. And one day he was like, "Oh, we're gonna go do a trial. You should come with us." And I was like, "What? I can't do trials." And it was just really fun because it was like a small social guild, so they were just doing like a normal trial. And basically, he convinced me to come back, and I got into raiding because of him, and because of that small guild, and we just started like doing really, really like completely non-optimized like normal trials, or like throwing our faces at vet crags, you know. And enough of us, there was probably like 6 to 8 people who really, really wanted to get better, you know. And so we made a core and just started progging things.
Okay.
And you actually know quite a lot of those players, like Cheppy and Grog, and like we eventually migrated to Semp. But yeah, no, we got to get like all the tries together except for PB, you know. So
that's cool. Who's the friend?
Oh, Zionar. I don't know if you know him.
Do they still play?
Sadly, he does not play as much now.
Okay.
So what happened is he got a girlfriend who isn't a gamer.
Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So sad.
Okay.
I keep trying to convince him to get her into ESO because then come back and play with us.
Yeah, I think possibly that could be a potential solution.
You always want your friends to find gamer girls or gamer guys, because then they'll keep playing.
I don't know about that one. It depends, I think. It depends. Oh, man. Hook, yeah. I don't know. Hook on her on housing, maybe, yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
So, that's how you got into raiding, through friends persuading you. How do you...
Yeah.
So, how do you choose your... Like, what did you want to do raids as?
Oh, I always wanted to heal.
Why?
I played, like, I always, when I would start a game, I would either play a caster or I would play a healer, usually. Those were the two that I would just gravitate towards. The first, like, online multiplayer game I played was TF2, and I was a medic main. And one of the things I found while I was playing that is I got really more enjoyment out of being objective focused. So, like, I cared more about winning the game than I did about my KD.
Okay.
So, like, I'd be the one who's more willing to, like, throw my body on the point so that we win. And that, I don't know, that attitude just tends to lend itself to support more. Because I like buffing, I like debuffing, I like helping the group accomplish something they can't without me, you know? Rather than just, like, having big DPS number myself.
I mean, how do you get DPS numbers without that support? You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's something a lot of people overlook. You know what I mean? Like, people will often look at the best groups for the DPS thing, but then, like, they don't ever take into account, like, the support roles. I don't know why. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you have really bad uptimes as a support,
then you're not getting that part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so significant. Like, that's why, like, you never, like, it's hard for people to kind of see. Now we have logs, but, like, it was back then to see, like, is this player, you know, are they capable?
Yeah.
Like, because if you put a good player in a, you know, like a starter group, it's kind of like you can't really. You might be able to distinguish them, maybe, but it gets harder, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and as a support, it gets really hard. Because like I said, I was climbing through not optimized groups at all, you know, and I remember looking at when I was just starting to network and talk to better healers, and they were telling me, "Oh yeah, this is what your uptime should be for this buff, or this is what your uptime should be." And I was like, "Oh my god, mine's not even anywhere near that," because I'm spending. I mean, I don't have the experience to know, like, in a good rotation, but B, even if I had that, you're spending so many of your GCDs reactive healing, you know, to people taking damage that they shouldn't be, and so you're just not going to get those uptimes, and it's really hard to separate that, right? Like, to learn in that messy group. It's a different kind of learning.
Oh. Did you have any, like, issues going through those groups?
What do you mean?
Like, any kind of issues? Like, was there, like, regression? Was there drama? Whatever.
Oh, of course. Of course. I've been called toxic before. Yeah, multiple times.
It makes me sad you said, of course. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had, when L4 dropped and logs came out, I was so excited. I remember we did like a random Sunspire, and then we just sat, like, me and a couple friends, we sat and chat for hours looking over the logs. Just like, oh my god, look, you can look at this. Oh, look, there's a replay button, you know?
Yeah.
And logs were, I really, really cannot stress enough how important logs are if you're learning as a support, because... Sorry about the cat.
Oh, that was a dog.
No. Because you can actually figure out and separate, was this death my fault, or was it the tank's fault, or was it the DD's fault, or, you know what I mean? You can actually see that in the logs. And I remember at the time we were struggling to just clear Yuln non-hard mode. And I remember looking at the logs and realizing this is a DPS check, because why we were failing was that our OT was dying because he had too many ads. And I know that sounds hilarious to people who are playing Sunspire now, and they're like, DPS check? What? We don't even get a second flare! What are you talking about? But yeah, we would get 3 Iron Atros and 6 Flame Atros, and he's struggling with that. And then we push a 4th one, and we still hadn't pushed Fly. And then they're
Jesus.
just like, yeah, let's kill the ads. Let's kill the ads. We wouldn't even have them all dead and Yoln's landing again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would at that point, I was looking at the log and I was like, oh, like we just don't have the damage to push the percentages. And the next time we went in there, I told them, I mean, we should wipe this pool. This is a wipe. And, you know, we were mostly alive, but we had way too many ads. And I was called toxic. They're like, we can recover this. We can, like, how are we going to recover this? If we didn't have the damage to kill them in the fly in which they'd spawned, right? How are we going to kill them? Plus the new ones that are spawned in the next cycle. We're just going to slowly die, you know? I also got called toxic for telling someone they should drink potions.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait. So was this like potions as in you should drink bleach, or was it like an actual like was it you should drink potions in the game or some shit?
No, literally. Like
Okay.
this player would not drink pots. Like
Okay.
he told me that he saved his pot so that when he died and he rezzed up from being dead, he could drink a tripod and get resources back.
Okay.
And I tried explaining to him why he should be using spell power pots for the buffs, and he's just like, not everyone plays like you do.
Okay. Huh.
Adventures.
Why do you think people? Why do you think people act that way? Like, you know what I mean? Like, suggesting a wipe isn't necessarily, in my opinion, like, unless you're like saying it in a really bad way, like, "Oh, you guys fucking suck. Let's wipe this and start over." Right? Yeah. Obviously, right? But like, and then suggesting like maybe you could use a potion. I don't know. Like, what do you think people like immediately like just go into such a defensive mode?
I think so one of the things that I was very against, and I find this interesting because I was a casual, but I also liked challenge, which I feel like Zos and the community tend to see as polar opposites. Like, you can't possibly be a casual and like challenge, right? Like, I was very opposed to the overworld nerfs, for example, that they were doing shortly after launch. But because they help teach you the game. You know, like if you came against a quest boss that would not let you pass until you learned a basic mechanic like interrupting, you were never going to forget how to interrupt, right? Whereas I've run into players in veteran dungeons and trials that don't know what an interrupt is.
No fucking way. They don't know what an interrupt is?
Absolutely.
They're in a veteran trial and they don't know what an interrupt is?
Yeah.
There's no
way.
way.
No, I've literally run across this. I've been in a veteran Moonhunter keep with players who are north of CP 500, and I'm explaining to them what interrupt is because they literally don't know. Like, they didn't even know that Bash did anything. Like, you know, and that shouldn't be the case. And the problem is because they added the tagline, play the way you want, then, like, the way they meant it is, okay, there's a variety of playstyles. It's an RPG, you know what I mean? It's the Elder Scrolls. But the way it gets taken is, no matter what I do, if I face roll my keyboard, I should get to win, you know? And so anything that you suggest that is contrary to that is toxic, and people get defensive. And at least that's been my experience. And yeah, it's really limiting because they're just holding themselves back, you know? I've also seen a lot of people hate dying. So, like, called wipes.
The hell is hate dying? What's hate dying? I've heard of it.
No, not hate dying as a verb. Like, they just don't like dying.
Oh, I was like, okay. I was like, I hate this fucking group so much. I'm just gonna kill myself. That's what I thought. Okay. I was like, Jesus Christ, do people do that? Like, goddamn. No.
I've literally seen someone on the forum say, if I die in a game, that's bad game design. And I'm just like, what? Oh, I know. But
oh boy.
It's like dying in games is how you learn, right? You die to something stupid, and then you're like, what can I do so that I don't die to that next time? But
Yeah.
if you don't feel that way, if dying is soul crushing, then you're not going to learn, and you're more likely to pass the blame, or blame the game. Like I'm awesome, so it's the game's fault that I died.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, the things you're telling me right now is like pretty overwhelming. Like, in terms
Is
of
it? I feel
it
like
is in terms of like people not knowing how to bash. You know what I mean? It's like it's something we take for granted. I feel like, you know what I mean?
I feel like if you remember being bad, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of
If you
course.
remember not understanding things yourself,
I don't.
it's easier.
Yeah, but I don't recall a time when I went through the
When you didn't know what
tutorial.
bashing was?
Yeah, I just don't recall what I see red lines, I bash. That's like my experience.
I don't know. I remember learning things like that. Like, I when I started playing for probably the first like dungeon or two I did, I was still playing in first person.
Oh yeah, I played in first person all the time. I
And
enjoyed it
then
actually. I still enjoy it sometimes. I like shift in and out during the questing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I found that I couldn't do it effectively in dungeons though, because there's just too many tells. There's too many ground AoEs you can't see.
I used to do it in dungeons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, but when I got into trials, I stopped doing it. So yeah, there's some groups out there, and maybe who suffered me going in first-person view. So maybe they're like years later down the line, they're listening to this, and they're like, this bastard." No wonder he kept dying.
No wonder he kept exploding us on twins. He just couldn't see.
Well, yeah, I think it was AEA where it was like, I can't see the axis very well, so let me just zoom out. And then I found out.
Wait, you were trying to tank it?
Oh yeah, I could.
In first person?
I'm not trying. I did it. It's just like over time I realized like I should just zoom out, and it got actually so much easier after that. It was kind of weird. At first, I just like weird feeling. Should I be doing this? This feels kind of like cheating. That's how much easier it got. Just zooming out in first person.
Right.
And then finding out you can actually increase the field of view to 150 from 130 on the third person view. And it's like, wow.
You can see everything.
Yeah, you can see everything. Well, almost everything. It's actually crazy because there were some people last year that were like doing the default field of view for their third person on Base hard mode. But then like we realized that, and then we asked them to like turn it up, and then voila, like less incidents.
Less explosions.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because you can see the curse coming from further away. Yeah.
But man, that's wild. The things you told me.
I don't know. I feel like if you've been playing as long as you have and you're a class rep, you'd be unsurprised by these things at this point.
Well, I just mean like how people act. You know what I mean? I don't know. Hopefully it changes.
I still feel like the play the way you want tagline was the biggest mistake they ever made.
I think it's fine. But I think how people interpret that and to what degree is not fine. I mean, you could like even if they had put a different tagline, who knows what that could have led to? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think of like a slogan for ESO that could be misconstrued easily as well. Like I don't know. Let's try to come up with an example. What would you come up as a tagline for ESO if you had to like define the game? Like.
I'm so bad at this. Like I am the wrong person for this. I mean, literally had my character creator time out because I couldn't come up with a name.
There isn't much, really. I mean, play how you want. It's kind of like so catchy too. Like, what else are you gonna say? I'm trying to think, because this is hard. You're right, it's hard. The more I think about it, I just, like, can't... I keep drawing blanks on what I would describe ESO as, like, as a slogan or tagline.
Have a contest. Have chat.
Have a contest.
Give you suggestions.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Just based on, like, my experience with ESO, maybe if I was, like, an outsider, I could maybe more easily come up with it, if that makes sense.
I just don't think... I don't think ESO or any game really can let you play the way you want within the confines of a game. So
Ooh,
it's
what do you mean?
already selling it short. Well, because there's always going to be things you can't do, even if it's just basic things like, I can't go here because there's an invisible wall, you know?
Okay.
Like, and there's always going to be optimal and suboptimal builds. Do you know what I mean? So play the way you want is deceptive no matter what.
But it's but I think the point of that is, like, it's okay to have suboptimal setups or groups or whatever, you know what I mean? And you can
That's
still...
not how people feel about it though, because they want whatever suboptimal setup they're using to be optimal. You know what I mean? It's not...
I don't know if they necessarily want it to be optimal. I think they don't care, or rather, I think they don't care, or they just don't care.
That's not been my experience.
Really? Well, what's your experience been?
Well, the experience is that they want everything. They want all the achievements. They want the mounts. They want the skins, and they want to be able to get it with their preferred playstyle, whatever that is.
Okay, and what was their like if you had to describe a playstyle that one of these people were putting forward, what would it be?
Like, one bar, I never bar swap. I have Healy Bird. I heavy attack in IA. Like, these are actual builds I've played with people. Like, I'm not making this up.
No, I'm sure you're not.
Let's see. I had someone who tried to game the system before logs came out. They didn't light weave. So what they did is they realized that people look at CMX, right, to figure out a light attack ratio, and they realized, oh hey, they just look at the duration of the fight and how many light attacks you hit. So what they would do is they would cast the skills on their bar, which weren't very many, and then they would just light attack until they needed to refresh a skill. Like, that's all they would do. No spammable, just light attack, light attack, light attack, light attack, light attack.
Okay. So if they put dots down, then light attack, and then when the dots are up, they refresh the
then
dots.
They would refresh the dots with no weaving.
I can see why they came to that conclusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then if you try to correct that person, you're toxic.
But did they want to be corrected?
Play the way you want. No, they didn't.
Did they want help?
No.
Then at that point, like, why bother? You know
well,
I mean?
Yeah, that's a conclusion that I ultimately came to. But the problem is, so when I started, like I said, in Social Guild, that we eventually formed like a core. The whole reason we swapped to cores, we started out just doing opens, right? And the problem with just doing opens is you would get players like that who did not want to optimize, and then you just couldn't clear. And we eventually had to stop bringing the players who didn't want to get better and didn't want to take advice just because we couldn't clear, you know? And some people would call that toxic, or some people would say you need to change the game because they should be able to clear. Because it's play the way you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's like various subcontexts with that tagline. Like, play that way you want, because it comes from, I covered this in so many videos too. It comes from the like, I even showed like the picture of it in that recent video where I was talking about, like, you know, casuals being toxic, and it comes from the back of the, you know, the CD case for ESO.
Right.
It's not like it didn't say play how you want. It's like play the
Play the way you want.
Yeah, it's like, but that kind of like got twisted. But then like under some, like it works in a lot of contexts. I feel like if you're just playing by yourself, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? But then when you enter a group scenario where there's other people with their own schedules and their own lives and like all that, it's kind of like it gets really murky there, because it's like, well, who's, I mean, like, I don't want to say toxic because it's just so weird, but like who's inconsiderate? Like who's really being inconsiderate here? The people who are trying or the people who don't want to try? I think is like the better framing here.
I think it depends on the goals of the group.
Right, like, but then when you
need 12 people who want the same thing out of the raid. Like if you want to go into a raid and you want to bring whatever build that you happen to have and you don't care if you don't clear, that's fine if the other 11 people feel the same way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But if like half of the people who are there really, really want to clear and are like poring over logs and trying to quote unquote fix their builds, and the other half aren't, they're going to start resenting them, you know, and vice versa.
What do you think is the best thing to do in that scenario? I get split, really.
Yeah,
on
that's what we
amiable terms.
As best as you can.
Yeah, I mean, as friendly as you can, you know what I mean? But you mentioned the social guild, and it was surprising to know Semp is technically a social guild, you know what I mean? And back then when we started, we did everything together back then. Like, it depends, like, if we were feeling PvP, like, for a couple patches, we would PvP. If we were just feeling like just chilling and talking, we would do that for a couple patches. If you wanted to start getting through trials, we would do that for a couple patches, and it would just be one focus at a time, rather than, you know, everyone does their own thing at different times, or at the same times. And when we started transitioning to PvE from PvP, there were issues because with the whole concept of core teams back then, or I don't know if it's the same now, to be honest, you ultimately had to exclude people. Not because you wanted to, but just because of the nature of the game. You can't bring all 100, 200 people into the trials, right? You gotta, or, you know, I mean, it's easy to say, meet me in Zerodead, or meet me on this faction and go into Zerodead, right? And
you can just make a split off group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then once you start going in trials, it's like by the nature of the design of that, it's like, unfortunately, you have to make groups. And I feel like human nature kind of makes it so where those groups kind of become like, I don't know, cliques or perceived as such, you know, regardless. So I don't know. It was hard because,
I mean, yeah, they're going to have shared experiences that the people who aren't in the group aren't going to have. You know, you're going to start getting inside jokes.
Right, exactly. It gets hard. And people feel alienated. I don't know, like, how you would ever prevent that. You know what I mean? But I think part of that has to do with, like, how undefined the culture is, or the raiding culture is still. I don't know.
What do you mean undefined?
Well, what's an endgame raider? Or what's an endgame player? What's a raider? You know, like, what you know what I mean? How do you define them? Like, how do you define
a raider just someone who does veteran trials?
Okay. And then
seems pretty basic. And then endgame raider, like, I mean, those are generally, I feel, the people who can complete vet DLC hard modes, right? Like, and then, like, progress on to tries. That's usually what we think of as endgame, right?
Okay. But that's not how other people think of endgame.
Well, what do they think of as endgame?
Well, a lot of people think reaching level 50 is endgame. A lot of people think
I definitely did not think reaching level 50 was endgame.
A lot of people do.
When I was getting it.
A lot of people think getting to a certain amount of CP is endgame, or a lot of people think trading is endgame. A lot of people think, fucking getting 36 Master Anglers is
That's not...
But then when it comes to PvE, it's like, okay, well, what about veteran trials? Is it hard modes? Is it score pushing? Is it trifectas? Like, cause, you know what I mean? Like, where does it start? Is it veteran dungeon hard modes? I don't know. But I'm not defining, I'm not saying like that, like what we do, but rather like how I feel like.
I don't feel like those players call themselves endgamers though, the way raiders do. Do you know what I mean? Like when I was doing dungeon hard modes, I didn't call myself an endgamer.
Right, exactly. So how do you define it? That's what I mean. Like with the like, how do you act according to that definition, or how should it be accepted that you act according to that definition? Are you just isolated, and do your own thing as a team and a raider, or do you try to be more inclusive and get more people? And are you? Because I feel like we've always, like, at least the older players like myself, we've always kind of struggled with this on various fronts. Like, do we mind our own business and just kind of do whatever? Do we like engage with certain groups of people? Do we, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like always been like an issue where we're always open to saying you can do whatever, but then like I don't know how to describe it. It's hard to put into words for me.
How do you mean that you can do whatever?
No, like you can score push, you can do trifectas, you can do whatever.
Oh yeah.
But then like when we say endgame players, it's kind of like it's so open. You know what I mean? And certain behaviors associated with that, I don't know. Like it's hard to dispel, or I don't know.
You're being very vague.
It's because I can't put it into words. It's just I can't put it into words. I don't know. I don't describe it in English. Like I guess like I don't know. Like I'm rambling.
You don't know how to associate with or relate to people who aren't what you consider endgame?
No. It's like how you describe someone who's an endgame raider, I guess, is my question.
I mean, just someone who like tries to optimize their build so that they can clear that DLC hard modes, you know, like consistently. That's usually that's okay. What I felt.
But beyond that,
was like, endgame for me.
But how is, you know what I mean? Like, how does that look to other people? Is that it?
What do you mean?
Like, is that it? Like socially, I'm assuming. I'm saying. Like, what else is there?
Oh, like, what do you do when you're in endgame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like how do you act?
I mean, that's like getting your DLC hard modes, getting trifectas, score pushing, all of that. And as far as how do you act, like, why does it have to be any different? Like, you don't have to have a huge ego just because you're in endgame. You know? It doesn't have to change you.
I know, but again, it's like it's hard to put into words. I'll have to mull over it, and I don't know, come up with it later. But I don't know. It still seems a little vague to me.
I felt like personally when I was climbing that until I got all my hard modes and a few of the earlier like mini trial tries, I did not feel like I was endgame yet. I felt like I was mid game, if that makes sense. Because I did not feel like I felt like there were a lot of gaps in my knowledge and in my confidence. And I don't mean just like self-esteem, I just mean like my ability to confidently clear things. Do you know what I mean? In the trials. So that was just my personal experience. And I felt like beginning raiding, for me anyway, was like crags and like, you know, just trying to do like non-hard mode DLC trials for the first time.
Fair enough.
And like, I think beginning endgame in that sense, like just getting your like non-hard mode clears, bleeds into dungeons. I feel like dungeon hard modes are like the gateway to that, because it's a lot easier, I find, to find 3 other like-minded people, right?
Mhm.
So you have your 4-man, and you just push like DLC challengers, you know, or like maybe even some dungeon tries, and that's how you start getting your feet wet. You start getting a taste for, ooh, this is something maybe I could do. I wonder if I can find a bigger group and do trials, you know. But that tends to be, I think, what holds people back, is trying to find that bigger group, because finding 4 people, well, 3 people is not hard. Finding 11 people is pretty hard, especially when you actually need all 3 roles at that point, you know. Like if you're doing dungeon, you basically need a decent tank, not even like the best tank, you just need a decent one, and then, you know, some solid DDs. You could even bring a healer if you want to. It's, you know, you don't have to be perfectly score pushing optimized for dungeons.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, for sure, in terms of dungeons being gateways to trials. But what do you think are the gateways to dungeons? You think there's enough?
Other dungeons.
Like, other dungeons?
Yeah,
but like,
no,
but rather not the gateways to the dungeons themselves, right? Like, incentive or otherwise, but like, like the ease of transition, both to dungeons and within the dungeon system. For example, like you mentioned the Overland earlier, and how you didn't agree with the nerfs to it back then.
I still don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But don't you think that has had an effect on?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the transitioning of players from Overland content to perhaps more difficult content, at least within the, you know, in the form of dungeons, and then within the dungeon system itself, it's like the jump from normal to veteran. I don't think is a very good efficient gateway to harder content.
It isn't.
So then you have like this weird situation where, yeah, you know, I can see where you're going from veteran dungeons to veteran dungeon hard modes, and then from that to trials. But I don't see, like, it seems all bottlenecked at like normal dungeons and above, or like and below. It's just kind of like weird. Like, I don't know how you'd fix that other than, you know, game design or being a game dev.
I mean, the problem is they're not going to rebuff Overland. They're not going to go rebuff normal trials and things, and they shouldn't have nerfed them to begin with, is my opinion. But no, yeah, it absolutely has had an effect. I've seen people in my trade guild or in zone chat advising new players not to even set foot in a dungeon until they're max CP. And I'm like, are you crazy?
Wait, max CP?
Yes.
3600 CP.
They've literally been telling people they need 3600 CP. And I was like, are you kidding me? I did dungeons at like level 7. I just like poured it in, you know?
That's so weird.
Yeah, like I did all the dungeons as I was leveling, and that's how you should do them, because the base game dungeons they were built to try and ease you in, right? You learn mechanics, you know, like almost one at a time. Like, okay, in this one we're gonna learn how to block, you know. In the next one we're gonna learn how to stand out of red, you know. Like, it's very, very, very basic, and it's the kind of thing that if you wait until you're CP, you can just stand in everything and not take damage, so you don't learn, you know.
That's so weird. People really tell people don't go into dungeons until you're 3600 CP.
Oh my god! And
why?
before the 3600, it was 810. I literally saw people in zone chat advising each other on how to grind CP so they could get into quote unquote endgame, and I was like, you don't need 3600 CP to do endgame. Like, I'm not at 3600 CP now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no,
I can't comprehend that. I just can't comprehend that advice.
But if you think about it, where in the game does it tell you? It doesn't. It doesn't tell you what CP you need. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like, then again, going back to the tagline, play how you want. Why does that matter though? Why do these people, the same people who think play how you want is like law, like the fucking law of the universe, but then they also like gatekeep other players or like put these ridiculous requirements. I don't get it. I just don't get that mentality. I just don't understand it. I can't comprehend I cannot comprehend giving someone the advice, especially a new player. That's fucking insane. You know what I mean? Or like giving each other advice like, oh, you know, you should have 3600 CP, dude. Like, can you? I just can't imagine it. I can't wrap my head around it. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. That's crazy that people give that advice to other people. That's just insane. I wonder, like, how many people actually take that advice too, or like think to themselves like, oh man, I should quit the game because I'll never get there. That's
I've definitely
scary.
I ran into when I was just pugging dungeons years ago, back when it was a 10 CP, and I ran into someone who was about to quit multiplayer completely. She was just going to play solo because she'd already gotten vote kicked from 3 dungeons because she wasn't 300 CP yet.
Okay.
And then she got into the group with my friends, and we were just like memeing around, didn't care, giving each other like shit when we died, but like joking, you know. And she messaged and she was just like, oh my god, like, thank you for making this so fun. Like, when I saw you guys' levels, I panicked and thought I was going to get kicked again. And I'd already made up my mind if I got kicked again, I was never ever going to play with other players again. And Jesus. I was just like, why are they kicking her for not being 300 CP? Like, this wasn't like getting kicked from like a DLC or like a trial. This is literally like Tempest Island unvet. Like, who cares?
That's so
you know
annoying.
What I mean?
That's so fucking annoying and frustrating.
It is.
Because like when people act like that, that shit gets blamed on us.
Oh, I know.
It's so annoying, so frustrating, because it's like, oh, you know, like you get this bad experience with these fucking toxic casuals or like these fucking people who have no idea what they're talking about. And you're like assuming that they're us. It's like, ah, my god, the shit. Even in my YouTube comments, dude, people like think I'm that kind of player who's like, oh, I'm gonna kick you because you don't have 1,000 CP. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I was told some wild shit.
Like, who cares, dude? I don't give a shit. You know?
Like, I was told I needed to have 130k HPS in order to heal.
HPS?
Hard mode.
HPS? I haven't heard of HPS since 2018. No, wait.
Well, that's 2017. When I heard it. It was like, I was trying to do VMOL hard mode. Bruh. And I was told I needed to have 130k HPS to clear it.
Bruh. HPS.
I remember at the time I was looking at, because I had started joining Discords with some of the better healers in the game, and I saw this video of Heals the Feels memeing around healing VMOL hard mode with just combat prayer. That's all he was casting. It's just combat prayer. And then that's VMOL hard mode. I was like, there's no fucking way that I need this much HPS, and yet that group is able to clear. Do you know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. But the person who told me this had a VMOL hard mode clear and I didn't, you know what I mean? And this is the kind of like bad information that gets spread.
Oh, Jesus. This is making me depressed. Man, I don't know, man. That's insane. I'm still stuck on the whole, like, you can't do dungeons until you're 3600 CP or whatever. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Fucking go touch grass, dude. I don't know. Yeah. That's just insane. And how recent was this? Like, is this 2022 or 2021?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, oh, that's so much fucking.
It was like a couple months ago. I was just chilling in Glenumbra, like, at the, what is it called? Where you spend your event tickets. And I saw it, and I thought about responding, but then I just did not want to get in a zone chat argument, so I just left the zone. It's like, fuck this. Oh, I don't want to deal with this.
I don't get it. Why? I don't get it, man. It's so weird. You think those guys are joking? Maybe? I don't know, man. Like, that's just...
want them to be joking so you can have faith.
Yeah, I think so too.
You're like, I don't want the players to be that dumb.
I don't know if it's dumb. I think it's just... I don't know where people get these ideas about anything, really. Like, I just don't get it. Because I sure as hell don't remember any other content creator, you know, no matter...
Ever saying that. No.
Yeah, or... I don't get it. What the fuck? I just don't get it. It's just insane. I don't know. Coming from me, that's fucked up, you know. But wow, I don't know. Like, do you think it's gotten better, or will get better in terms of like the information gap and the knowledge gap?
I think having places like ESOU where people can get information is a good start, because that wasn't around when I was trying to learn myself. But it's still kind of a walled garden, you know. When people go to look up information on the game, they tend to go to Reddit and they tend to go to the forums, and both of those are terrible sources for information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they don't know that, you know, and there's not really, unless you're in the right discords, right?
Yeah.
The game does not do a good job of giving the information. One of the things I've feedbacked since beta, and I still wish they would add, but I've kind of lost hope at this point, is a kind of Civlopedia. I don't know if you've ever played
like
Civilization 6.
Like an in-game like encyclopedia.
5. Yes.
Yeah, Total War has that. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you play an RTS, they like Civ, they have this massive in-game encyclopedia, and so anything you come across, because it's a very dense game mechanically, anything you come across you don't understand, you're like, oh, what's that unit? What's it going to do to me? You just type it in, and you get this big sheet with real numbers and real buffs, and I wish that existed in ESO. Like, one of the things that I remember being mystified in my first playthrough was, you know, you're playing the one class you chose, so you don't know other classes' abilities, like, at all. And, like, say a synergy pops up, right? Like, what is this? Do I want this? Does it do damage? Does it heal me? Should I save it? Is it something the tank needs? So, like, I remember initially I just wouldn't take synergies because I didn't know what they were, and I'd have to, like, try and remember what they were and look them up. A new player might not even do that, you know? Like, or they might not know where to look it up, you know? And it would just be nice if those things were in there, you know?
Yeah, I agree. But then, at the same time, would people even use it?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, people open the in-game help, it's just useless. The in-game help page is useless.
To my perspective, and many other content creators' perspectives, players do not... They seem impatient, and players do not seem to read, to the point that some of us think, like some of them are illiterate.
I don't think that.
Man, you should see... I mean, you can talk to other content creators, too. Like, there's a lot of instances where people ask for video guides. Okay, we make the video guides. And there's another case where, okay, now that we have the video, can you do a written form, like a written guide to, like, so I don't have to watch the video? We do that, but they don't read the guide. It's like you have so much information, but people don't really bother going through it. And then, like, for example, like, this is a really good example. And again, this is like the same experience other people have on, other ESO content creators have dealt with, from Outcast to whoever you want to name. Let's say you answer a question, like, in the on the first, like, paragraph or in the first minute of the video. People will still ask that question.
That's true.
It's just like, I don't, like, I don't know how much more dumbed down you can, like, make things, but I feel like even an in-game encyclopedia is kind of like, sure, but will people use it? I don't know. And, like, if so, how many people will use it out of 10? Like, will it be 5 out of 10 people? Will it be 6 out of 10? 1 out of 10? I don't know if it's, like...
I mean, if it's 1 out of 10, it's still helping.
It's a very optimistic view. I take that view personally. it just I don't know. Sometimes it feels like kind of working to no avail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I had that. That's another experience I had because again, like when I was very optimistic starting out in the social guild, and we're like, oh my god, let's all clear together. We're all going to progress together.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is you have different levels of engagement, right? And I remember when we were first going to start our VMOL prog,
Yeah.
and myself and our raid lead, we went combing the internet looking for video guides and written guides on how to do VMOL from every different role.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to find guides that were, because like we had low damage at the time. Doing 5-pad or 3-pad burns was becoming pretty common for the upper end, but we weren't going to be able to do that. Like, remember, we were getting 3 or 4 atros on Yuln.
Yeah.
So I was trying to look up videos of like Lunar, you know, and trying to adjust that to the way the game had changed in the years since then. And so like we did this big spiel with these videos and like, okay, you're going to want to replace this skill with that, and you're going to want to cast this, and nobody watched them, nobody read them. And we got in there day one and they didn't know anything. And we felt like we'd wasted all our time. Like, why did we do that? Why did we spend all this time giving them information that they had no intention of engaging with at all, you know?
Right.
Which was kind of annoying, because then here I am, like, a healer main who's never tanked anything that wasn't the dungeon, explaining to our tank how to tank VMOL because they didn't bother watching any of the videos.
Right. So you think it's, I don't know, it's just how do you solve this issue? Because, you know, none of us content creators have really figured it out. Like, fully, you know? And maybe we have to accept the fact that we can't figure it out.
You can't, I don't think you can reach everyone, because not everyone wants to.
Well, and that's not about wanting. Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, true.
But if you find the people who do want to work and are just surrounded by bad information, then it's worth it, you know?
Oh, I agree. Like, to me, it's like, if it's 1 out of 10 people,
right?
It's like, this is like my perspective on it. Maybe it's like, it doesn't make sense to people, but like, if it's 1 out of 10 people, and this was like my same logic with the Rayleigh program that I'm hoping to start back up as well in ESOU. Like, even if it's just a retention rate of like 1 out of 11 or something, maybe that one person can do something. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that one person will be worth more than 10 people, if that makes sense.
Like the pay it forward, like they're gonna reach,
kind of, but
they're
like,
gonna reach people too. Yeah,
kind of, but like in a sense where maybe they'll make a big impact. Maybe in that sense it's worth it. But if you're thinking in terms of like the average kind of thing, well, maybe it's not. I don't know. It's something I thought a lot about. But then I was like, well, you know, if it's one person, it might be worth it. 2, that's even better. But yeah. And where were we going with this? We would, yeah.
We're talking about an in-game encyclopedia and whether people.
Right. But yeah, that'd be cool.
I just think it would be nice to have that information in-game, so that you don't have to go hunting through the myriad. Like, it's not even like a one wiki site like it is for other games. You know what I mean? It never has been. Like, so many of the resources I use for ESO are things that are completely buried even on their, like the UESP build editor. How do you find that if you don't know someone who linked it to you?
You Google it?
You wouldn't know to look for it.
Well,
you know what I mean? Exactly.
But isn't that all research?
But it's like, it's buried even on UESP's page. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
And like, the only reason I found it is because Tabata was talking about it,
Right.
And then I've passed it on to other people, but you know what I mean? If you're someone who isn't connected, I don't know.
In terms of like the knowledge or like
Yeah.
just talking, right? Yeah, I get it.
I don't know why they don't just have an official build editor, like a lot of other games do.
Do other
Like
games have build editors?
On the ESO forums? Yeah, Borderlands has an official build editor.
Okay. Huh.
Like, and those could be things they could do to try and, I guess, bridge that information gap, right?
Yeah. But recently, one thing's been bothering me a little bit in regards to all this. Something like I've seen some. I've also heard some comments from devs where like they said like the average player isn't really looking to do raiding or PvP or some shit like that. Like they're here for the story. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself like, how you know what I mean? It's just like how much of that do they put stock into? Like,
so
you know what I mean?
I agree with that because that was me, like I said at the beginning.
Exactly.
But I don't think I would have kept playing as long as I have if I didn't get into raiding. Because you run out of quests to do. They get boring, you know? For me in particular, when they made the massive nerfs they did to Overland, and this is even before all the power creep we've had over the years, Overland just started getting dull, you know? Like, I find it really funny because endgamers tend to meme about the oh my immersion, you know, like lol my immersion, because they feel like that's the source of like everything bad in the game. And it honestly breaks my immersion when the quest is hyping up this boss, like, oh my god,
I know what you mean. Yeah,
oh my god, this guy is a scourge. He's just like, oh, no one can handle him. And I go up there and I lay a trap, and he RP walks into the trap and just dies. And it's like, I didn't even have to do anything. Like, you know, I had that experience recently because I actually haven't finished all the questing. I got, I once I started raiding, I got really bored with it. And even before that, when I was just doing dungeons. But I went back and I was doing like the Reaper's March quest with the arena, and they're hyping up all the, like, there's literally an announcer talking up this boss. And they just come in and die, and I was just like, really? You guys couldn't kill this? Like, I don't know.
It's really funny you bring this up because I was questing before the podcast. Like, I was streaming until about 5 a.m. and I was finishing the Blackwood quest line, and then I started and finished the Deadlands quest line because I don't want to play catch up like I have been for the past few years to High Isle or the next chapter. And all these like epic, I mean, I don't know, all these setups where like you're supposed to fight this like really mean boss. It's like,
and you're getting excited, right? You're like, ooh.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm done. It's cool. It does kill my immersion for sure.
Yeah, but and like, I don't need it to be like a raid boss, but it could even be just like, I don't know, world boss level, like a little challenging. I don't know.
I feel like they know this because the more I progress through the Blackwood questline and the Deadlands questline, the more and more I noticed that they were putting these time gates in on these boss fights. Like, you got them down to or past a certain percentage, then you can't hurt them anymore. Then you have to do like you have to interact with something or synergize something or something, and then you have to resume the fight. I feel like they know this on some level, but like I don't think that's still enough.
That's such bad design, though.
Well, how else would you design it?
It's just boring.
Like, at this point,
because then you're just waiting for the RP. Like, that's literally Lair of Marsalak.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying I think they know on some level as game developers that, you know, because I don't see like how do you design the fights? Like, do you just give them more health?
and mechanics.
But like,
you know, the funny thing is, there are bosses in the game that have mechanics, but it doesn't matter because they don't have enough health and they don't have enough resists, so you don't have to do them. Like, if you do the Psijic quest at the very end when you fight what's her face, whose name I forget now, she actually has mechanics, and the only reason I know that. No, not Nocturnal. No, I'm talking about the Psijic Order Guild quest. Not yeah.
Okay.
And she uses all of these like Psijic skills against you, and it's actually kind of cool. But you will never see those unless you literally stand there and don't attack her, because otherwise you do too much damage, even with just light attacks. That you'll push her to the next phase, and she won't do any mechs.
Yeah, it's the same case with. I mean, there's that Spriggan boss in March of Sacrifices, where there's an achievement for doing the mechanics, actually.
So you actually have to wait so you get mechanics?
But like, it's not about that. The mechanics, it's beautiful. Like, when we first did it the first time around, we were like, whoa, this is so cool. But then most people just never see that, and it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate, I think. I don't know how to solve that. I don't know how you would solve that, though. You know? And I think the devs are struggling with that, too. Because, again, there are time gates now. Or there's more increasing adoption of time gates. There's I don't know, like... There's...
I mean, the way you solve that is you just make the boss harder. You give them more health. You make it.
Yeah, but the problem is they don't want to make it too hard, or.
Because then it's not play the way you want.
Right. I don't know, man. Like, you're right. You completely right. Because something struck a chord with me when you said this. You said something how like people equate challenge to not being casual, but it's like, look how many people are enjoying Elden Ring. There's over 12 million players.
Right.
And that's supposed to be hardcore as fuck, but there's ways in that game to circumvent the difficulty of it, whether you want to farm more levels, or whether you want to find a broken weapon or whatever, or use a skill. And people enjoy it. People enjoy how brutally challenging it is. And it keeps them engaged to a degree. Obviously, there's people who won't not enjoy that, but at the same time, the fact that there's over 12 million people playing it. How many millions of players have played ESO? They said 10 million at this point? Over 8 years? Elden Ring's been out for less than a month, and it's, what, 12 million? You know, it's like... I don't know if it's the players or the devs at this point. Do players want a bit of more of a challenge? Or is it that the devs think that the players don't want any more of a bit of a challenge? What do you think? Like... I don't know.
I think the devs listen to whichever wheel is squeaking the most at the time.
Okay.
You know? And that's why we get these, like, flip-flopping patches.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You get one patch where it's like, okay, we've heard you, you don't like spammable builds, we've overbuffed the fuck out of dots, dot rotation is the way to go. And then it's like, oh, we heard that you guys don't like all of the dot rotation, so now we've nerfed dots into Oblivion, all spammable build. You know what I mean? And it just like flips back and forth, and they also have a tendency to over nerf, and then I think they get kind of embarrassed when they realize they fucked up, and so they don't immediately change it. They wait a few patches, hoping by the time they change it, you've forgotten they ever changed it before. You know?
Oh yeah, maybe.
It's like, look at what they're doing right now with the hybridization. Like, the game was hybrid at launch.
Right.
It was.
Well.
And now they're acting like, it's a new game, guys! We're making it better. It's like, okay. You know, like, and it's kind of funny because the trajectory they took it, they gradually buffed weapon lines. Many weapon skills were more effective than their classical counterparts. And the reason they did that is because the play the way you want mantra meant people would make a character with no idea what its class might be good at, and then they were mad that it wasn't good at the playstyle they wanted. Like, they'd make a Nightblade, and then they'd be mad it couldn't tank. They'd make a Sork, and they'd be mad it couldn't heal, you know? And so the answer to that, because Zos didn't want to go through and just, like, start changing morphs and taking away from the other valid playstyle, you know, was, okay, well, we'll buff the out-of-class skills. We'll buff the Resto line a lot. We'll buff Undaunted. You know, we'll make it so that the things that your class is lacking, you get from out-of-class. And, well, eventually the out-of-class options became more powerful. Like, at launch, Templar was the only class that could give resources to the party. They were the best healer for that reason. Yeah. Not because they had powerful heals. Who gives a shit? It was because they had Repentance, they had Shards. You know, they could give resources to the tank and to the DDs. And then they made Orb better than Shard. And it shares a synergy with it. So Shard is basically garbage, you know? And they've never changed that. So, when you think about when you're making a build for a tank or a healer, or up until recently even a DD, like, most of what you'd slot on your bars was out-of-class skills, you know? And so then people start complaining, oh, well, there's no class identity, you know? I feel like every class plays the same, because it did. And so now they're trying to address class identity, and the way to do that is they're like, oh, well, we'll hybridize everything, and then we'll go in and start making some of these class skills really unique and powerful. And it's like, isn't this kind of what you had at launch? Like...
Yeah, I think since launch, a lot's changed. I think we made a full circle in a lot of aspects. To the, well, not just even combat, but, like, everything. Like, I don't know, Shervin. But I think it's also in the sense progressed while coming to a full circle, if that makes sense. Like, for example, like some quality of life things, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, there's no question. There are a lot of quality of life features that have been added to the game that are really nice, like the sticker book and transmutes and the armory system, which I know like you guys tend to rag on, but for what it's supposed to be doing, I
don't give a shit about it. All I gave a shit about for that was like, oh god, the stupid fucking reasoning they gave for it. You know what I mean? Like, it was so bad.
What do you mean?
When they were talking about why it wasn't available in like leaderboard instances, it's just kind of like, well, you kind of made this. That's it. You made it. You created a situation. You know what I mean? You created a scenario where you could sell it, but then like, I don't know. It's just like setting yourself up, and then they're kind of acting like, well, you know, it's good.
I think people are looking at it for something that it's not intended to do. They wanted to replace Dressing Room or Alpha Gear or Wizards and be that for console, and I don't think it was intended to be that, because...
Oh yeah, no, for sure. In terms of like the functionality, it's not.
The thing is, if it were able to do that, if you were able to use it in PvP or in a trial, it would actually be way more broken than Alpha Gear or Dressing Room, because you can change morphs. You can change your attributes. You can change whether you're a vampire or a werewolf or not. Like that.
Yeah, I know.
So much power creep.
But that doesn't mean they couldn't have done, you know, a different thing, or perhaps disabled the swapping of, you know, werewolf or vampire or morphs in a leaderboard instance.
You think that's gonna work when they add it? You're funny.
Oh, it just seemed rushed. Their reasoning for it was rushed, in my opinion. The functionality, of course, you know, gives me an answer as to why they designed it that way. Obviously, they wanted to cut down time that players spend to respec, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, it also doesn't come across as well-meaning to players who've been asking, especially on console, or some sort of version of the PC add-ons. And then when you're charging really high prices for not just the assistant NPC, but
you
also
don't need the assistant though.
I know, but well, this kind of goes back to, you know, the direction of the game, right? But then you're also charging prices for slots per character. It doesn't come off as it just doesn't look good at all. No matter how well meaning, you know what I mean, how what the good intentions are. So there were a lot of issues with that I had for sure from that live stream to just everything. I don't know. But
I think they should add a separate feature that is
yeah, maybe.
That is build slots. And I don't think it should be a station. I think it should just be like in your inventory screen. Like kind of, if you remember, it's like an old add-on. I can't even remember the name of it anymore. But it used to be just like basically select separate builds like on your character sheet, like on your inventory screen. And they could just add something like that, and that could work for console.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, going back to like the question, do players want the game to be a bit more challenging? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
I think some players do and some players don't.
Obviously, but like, what's the proportion? Because I have this sense, at least from my perspective, and my perspective might be a bit biased because, of course, you know, I don't interact with everybody or every group, but the things I've been seeing on various platforms from some people I don't really associate with, or groups I don't really talk to, they have similar sentiments as to the immersion of the questing when it comes to, you know, one-shotting of us, and also like the lack of ease of transition between content from you know, normal to vet, or from overland to dungeons, and from dungeons to trials. It's just like, I don't know. Personally, I feel like they could just take a risk and be like, okay, well, let's make things a little bit more challenging, and maybe that could teach players. Because again, let me, if you look at Elden Ring, it's like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Because that game is probably harder than ESO at first, anyway. But people ate it up and
see,
enjoyed
that's
it.
the difference. If you're going to set up a game to be hard, you kind of need to establish that early, so people expect that from the experience. You know, if you set it up to be easy and then later something just smashes their face in randomly, they're more likely to be hostile to that thing.
Exactly.
You know?
And the overland's the beginning, basically.
Right.
And then when they nerfed it, it's kind of like, well...
I mean, I remember when some of the base game quest bosses were hard.
Oh
like
yeah, me
Dosha.
too. I died.
Dosha?
Yes, I died a lot.
I
was enjoyed
extremely opposed to Dosha getting nerfed, because it was one of those things that like people would ask in zone, they would ask in your guild chat, like, how do I beat this bitch? What do I do?
And then that would promote like interacting with one another and talking to one another and learning from one another. But now it's kind of like, well, whatever. So I guess in a sense they're trying to make it more social, but they didn't make it more social in a lot of aspects surrounding the game. Not even just Overland, I feel like. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is like, I guess I just don't understand why challenge is seen as bad. Like, not even like huge challenges, but like a little bit, just a little bit. But again, they did say, again, like the average player doesn't look for that. They look for the story. But again, that goes back to the quest immersion. Where's like the fine balance there? Because plenty of people like complain about the questing, unfortunately. Exactly what we're talking about, you know what I mean? Like, I like yesterday, like in the morning, at like 3 a.m. I was, you know, battling Mehrunes Dagon. And it's like, none of it really like hurt me, You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like, oh my god, I almost died. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just, it was bland.
Right.
It's kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what percent of ESO's player base wants a challenge. Cause like,
oh yeah, that's what I would love to know. If I could reach out to every single player and be like, hey, do you think Overland might need a slight buff? You know, to the questing bosses maybe? If I could get an answer for every single player, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. You know, but that's impossible, obviously. And I don't know how Zos does that even. That's what I'm getting at too. Like, is it the devs or is it the players? Because how do the devs know? Apart from, like, you can look at the metrics, right?
I think the devs just look at what percentage of our player base has cleared this content.
Right, but then
and if it's like, not high enough, they just nerf it.
But that doesn't... Okay, you can look at numbers all you want, but it's like, how does that explain sentiment? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's
like,
so complicated, and I don't understand it. Like, where they get this idea that not... You know, I don't know. It's just...
Mm-hmm. And it ruins that, what you're talking about, that separation between veteran and normal. So, like, when I was learning to heal, I remember the first time I went into Enhoff, I had no idea how much I needed to purge, right? I'd been told by the raid lead, oh, you need purge on your bar, and you're gonna have to cast it on this fight, and this fight. And I was like, okay. But, like, my raid lead wasn't a healer. He didn't fucking know. And so people are dying left and right, even on normal Hoff. And then I finished it, and I went and looked it up, and was like, wait, I'm watching this video of VHoff, and this healer is casting Purge every third skill. Is that how often I should have been purging? And they're like, oh man, now I really want to go back in and redeem myself, right? Like, now that I know better, I want to go back in and do better. And they nerfed Enhoff before I could get back in. Like, we literally set up a raid, I think like a week or two later, and they nerfed it in between and removed all of the poison. And it was like, okay, so now I don't get to learn until I can do this on vet? Do you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
it's just, there's no easy transition at all.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. And I think, like...
Yeah.
I don't know, like, in my childhood, you know how I learned how to swim? I got pushed into the water. Like, some people learn that way, some people don't. You know, obviously I didn't drown because I'm here.
Oh my god.
But like, I just think there needs to be an easier transition, especially for the demographics of the player base, as it is now. But maybe that'll change over the next however many years. Who knows? You know, because you know the demographics. A lot of people kind of have this foregone conclusion where, oh no, ESO it'll always be casual, but it wasn't always casual.
No.
Like demographics will always shift, no matter what. Like at first it was PvPers. We were all PvPers. I think most of us were PvPers. And it's just kind of like now it's mostly, you know, non-PvPers. But people forget that. I think people have really short memories, and they think it's a foregone conclusion, for sure. But yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah. I remember when they were planning on rolling out adventure zones as part of Endgame. Remember, like, Crag was the first, Merkmeyer was another one.
Yeah.
And the problem is, Crag was a failure.
Well,
and they took that to mean, okay, people don't want challenge, particularly in their questing. But the problem is, Crag, I don't think was a failure necessarily because people didn't want challenge. It was a failure partly because there wasn't like a system to find a group for Crag. Do you know what I mean?
Because
there wasn't a group finder for zones.
Right.
And
for the listeners who are confused maybe about this, Crack Lore used to require you to be in groups for entering specific delves. You could not enter specific instances without at least I think, was it 100 players, 200 players? I know one requires a total of 4 players to open the doors.
Some of them required 4. And
yeah,
that was a legitimate problem, because I remember going into areas with 2 or 3 people, and we were managing to kill whatever the enemy was. We were managing to play shorthanded. It was really fun. But then there'd be like 4 pads you had to stand on, kind of like AA.
Yeah.
And you'd literally need a warm body, and it's like, oh, I guess we can't finish this, you know?
Right.
And that was shitty. That was stupid design. They should have just changed that part and added a group finder, and I think it would have been good.
I don't know if they could have added a group finder. Dude, the group finder, is it still bugged right now? I think they're really incremental at 2 a.m. Eastern later after today to fix that, I think. I saw something about it in the in-game announcements. But man, group finder,
screens.
Man, every patch is something.
At prime time.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't even complain, because like the Year of Greymore was the worst. As long as it doesn't get that bad.
It was ironically the year performance too, I believe.
I know.
And it's kind of like, well, I mean, that just kind of shows how complicated or complex the game probably is on the back end. Remember Hero Storm?
Yes.
They were like, okay, guys, we're gonna remove 30 gigabytes. I shit you not, 30 gigabytes of data from, you know, having to download ESO. And everyone was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. You know, it goes from like almost 90 gigabytes down to about 60 gigabytes. And then that patch was like literally the worst patch in terms of performance I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just kind of, dude, it's so bad. That was the patch that made Asian God quit.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I had so many friends quit.
Their entire raid team was like, fuck this shit. We're going to Final Fantasy 14 and become fucking, you know, bunny-eared people, you know, like falafels or whatever they're called. But anyway, yeah, shit. And now, like, this patch, despite, you know, the account-wide achievements being a thing, for performance, there's still issues, and it's kind of like, that's mind-boggling to me. You know what I mean?
It's not as many issues as that, though. But, like, I think that year scarred me, so now it's like, if it's not as bad as that, it's okay.
Exactly. That's the benchmark, for sure. Yeah.
What? I'm not crashing every, like, 5 minutes? Okay.
But also the crazy thing is they've been doing all this from home since 2020. They did this patch from home.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It's insane, dude. Like, what the... in the last podcast, Real Godzilla was talking about it too, in terms of like probably the difficulties he imagined they have with working remotely. You know, it's like you're missing out on so much shit just being in person. I don't know. I get that.
That's fair.
Holy shit, dude. Zoom is literally the worst invention by mankind. I can't... the learning, the teaching that had to be done through Zoom... I don't know if anyone has ever experienced Zoom in chat, or, you know what I mean? But, or anyone watching or listening, but like... God damn. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, what do you feel like? What do you feel about account achievements? The opinions seem pretty like majority for it outside of the in-game community, but in the in-game community, it seems a little bit more polarized in some instances.
I think our peers care about it way more than the endgame community.
You think so?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know about that. I felt like...
No. There are people who are like, this is my, you know, my upstanding paladin. They will never, ever steal anything. They'll never commit a crime. And now they suddenly have Thieves Guild achievements. They suddenly have, you know, like slaughtering citizens achievements. And they're really upset about that, you know? Or they'll have someone who, like, this person is never going to be a vampire. And now suddenly they have all the vampire achievements. And that bothers them, you know? Because they feel like their character is sullied. I think if it had been account-wide from the beginning, no one would care.
For sure. Yeah, exactly.
but because it was like this for so long, they now feel like they're losing something. Like, people literally made add-ons to try to preserve the sanctity of their characters.
Oh yeah, I saw that there's like 2 add-ons now. It's like, what the fuck is it? Oh god, there's
honestly earned achievements.
Yeah, honestly earned achievements.
And there's character achievements. Yeah.
Shit. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
I think they care about it way more than the endgame community. I haven't run into that many endgamers who care. The ones who do tend to be kind of like meme dank. The ones who just like they
meme
feel
dank?
Gypped. Because what did he like 100% 4 characters?
Like 2 characters or some shit.
2 characters.
Yeah,
okay.
2 characters or some shit.
Right. So it's like a lot of extra work, and not all of it. I think part of the reason they feel that way is because not all of the achievements are fun to get. Let's be real.
Oh my
There's
god,
a lot
yes.
of grindy
Dude,
achievements.
yeah, I was looking. I was actually trying to achievement hunt the last stream yesterday, and I was looking at you, and oh my lord, I just didn't realize the work.
Some of them are just ass.
Some of them, no, a lot of them are ass, bro. I gotta buy this fucking 3.7 million gold house, dude. three of them, and a discount of 10k, 5k gold. You know, like what the fuck? And I have to look for Mike the liar, and he might be in any spawn location across multiple zones at a minute at a time. Like, you fucking kidding me? Why? You know what I mean? Yeah, I get that. I get the people who were like 100% in the game and was like, oh, you know, like I do it on multiple. I don't know why you would do it on multiple characters. That's fucking insane to me too.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Ah, Jesus. I don't know. But yeah, like there was a huge outcry, I think, at the beginning, at least from raiders, especially those on console, and actually quite a few on PC. But the like concerns were so weird, and the same people who said they're gonna quit this patch because of that shit, they're still fucking raiding. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, bro, come on. You know, there were some people saying, "Oh my god, this is gonna kill Endgame," and I'm just like, bro, this is nothing.
I don't see why it would kill Endgame.
Oh, because people are arguing about something like, oh, people would X up as the role that they didn't get, you know, fucking Planesbreaker on or Godslayer on or some shit. But that's more console related, obviously, because that's like their metrics, because they don't have logs. You know what I mean? They have like achievements, they have titles, they have skins, they have, because, you know, that's a whole thing, that's a whole culture on console.
Have them X up with a POV then. Make it so that
I don't know. There's so many ways.
That's what they already did on console.
Yeah, of course. But then, like,
I also feel like
here's
the thing. Unless it's an open, if it's actually a prog, at most that person's gonna waste an hour or 2 of your time, because it's gonna become very, very apparent that they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, if I X as a Planesbreaker tank, like, I don't know how to tank Rockgrove. What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're gonna wipe very quickly. You know what I mean? And it's gonna become really obvious. I don't understand why they would think they could hide. You know?
Right. But my issue with that thing, with that premise, is also like, okay, let's say you got a Planesbreaker on your healer, right?
Yeah.
And then you start tanking it. But I feel like there's a huge difference between that and someone learning to do Planesbreaker.
That's true as well.
Because the knowledge transfers, right? You know what the fuck.
Some of it does.
Oh yeah, a lot of it does. Yeah, and people act like, oh no, you're like
you know where the bosses are supposed to be held. You know
exactly.
that they have enrage mechanics. You know on Basai that there's curses and there's nasty bleeds. Yeah. Yeah,
and a lot of the arguments, stem from like this notion that people just fucking forget everything. So, okay, well, achievements are bad. Well, I don't know. I don't mind it. I can see why people have an issue with it, in terms of like, maybe it goes back to the armor system, right? Like, in terms of how rushed feels, in terms of like, maybe it's not properly implemented. I get that. But to say that it was going to kill Endgame, that's just fucking just silly as fuck to me, honestly.
I mean, I don't think Endgame is just getting achievements, though.
No, absolutely not. But then this goes back to like, how do you define? And because everyone has their own definition.
I think Endgame has a pretty wide space that and I feel like once you've gotten all the tries and you've gotten all your hard modes, generally people start score pushing. Even if they're not going for world records, they tend to do like sweatier versions of that trial, right? Just for fun.
Yeah.
Or if they're not interested in that, they tend to log out until there's a new trial.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things need to definitely change for the better, in my opinion.
But yeah, I feel like account-wide achievements will be better for rating going forward because...
Oh yeah, 100%. People will have really short-term perspectives on this. Like, they just kind of think of their own selves and, like, maybe how they feel, but, like, objectively speaking, bruh, you can bring whatever you want now. You know what I mean?
Whatever is good for the group.
But not having to worry about the achievement on your main character. Oh, I really wanted to come on my Templar because I want the achievement on my Templar. Well, if the group needs you to come on a DK, well, come on a DK, but you'll still have the achievement on the Templar. Well, fuck it, who cares?
I mean, that's one of the things that I found I had to kind of, like, abandon having a main as a support. Because you have to bring whatever the group needs, right?
Yeah.
And I remember at the very beginning when I started getting clears, and I see this in a lot of players who are just starting to get into Endgame too. There's this fear, well, if I don't get it on my main, this might be my only chance to ever get this.
Exactly.
And so they only want to bring their main because they're so terrified. And the reality is that once you've gotten one clear, it's easier to get more. You know, and so once you've gotten one title, whatever it is, it's easier to get into groups to get it again. So it doesn't matter that much if you don't get it on your main, because you can always get it on your main later. And now it'll just be even better because people can just bring what the group needs.
Right. Or once, or whatever, or whatever your cup of tea is. Who cares?
And your main will still get the title.
Yeah, and you can try different characters. Too, or classes if you want, but but also another long-term perspective to look at in terms of like a positive thing with the account win achievements is it keeps forcing ZOS. I think it should keep forcing ZOS, and I think people should keep saying this shit all the time to keep their focus on this, is the lack of a reward structure. And this is a common theme that's popped up in however many past podcasts we've done so far. You know what I mean? Like the lack of reward structure, the lack of rewards, and the fact that a lot of people placed emphasis on the achievement system as their reward system because there isn't any other reward system. I think that should really give the devs like some thought and pause as to like what kind of things they should implement in the game.
I mean, you know why there's no reward system, right?
I know you're gonna say Crown Story, but
no, that's actually not why. What are
you gonna say? What are you gonna say? Because a lot of people say Crown Story.
It's because it's play the way you want, and not everybody can clear hard modes and trifectas.
Okay, so you think that there's no reward structure because people will get mad?
They have gotten mad in the past.
Okay,
look at the line of dungeons. Look at the dungeons reward structure over the years, right?
Okay,
you started out with you had to do a challenger to get your skin, right?
Yes.
You had to do everything. Hard mode, no death, speed. And then you gradually got to the skin is just for doing veteran, right?
Okay.
And then you get to where the skin is just like for going in there, or you get to where there's not even a skin. It's just a memento, or it's some tattoos, or it's, you know what I mean? And that is just for going in.
Okay.
There's nothing attached to the hard achievement anymore except for a title because they get bitched at when they do that.
Okay.
That it's elitist and, well, why are you adding things that I'm never going to be able to get? And my attitude, even when I was a casual, was, why does everybody have to get everything? I mean, when I wasn't a raider, I didn't want them to nerf raids so I could do them. Do you know what I mean? Because my attitude is always, if I were to ever do this eventually, I would want it to still be hard. So it feels like I earned it. So I had to work towards it, not they nerfed it down to my level. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
It's just a weird attitude to want everything.
Oh, I completely agree.
For yourself.
I think a lot of players, or not even ESO players, I think a lot of gamers are entitled.
Oh, 100%.
For sure, 100%. You know, I see this in other game communities for sure. But like, I also think maybe the framing of this is not. The current framing of this is not productive. Like, you know, we always like to complain about that. You know, Endgame doesn't get rewards, or rather, you know, casual players don't like us getting rewards. But I think the framing should be everyone should get rewards at some level. Like, everyone should win. Does that make sense? Like, in terms of a reward structure, like there should obviously be tiers, or like maybe like the quality of not quality. Sorry, not quality. Like the I don't know how to say this. Like the type. Not necessarily quality, like you know that Greymore mount you get from doing antiquities or digging up shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Ebon Dwarven mount, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I never got that.
You never got that?
I didn't finish it. I don't care.
Yeah, okay. So why can't casual players also get mounts? Why can't any
That is a casual player mount, though.
No, you're not listening. You're thinking about the short term again, right? Like,
okay.
Why can't they also get mounts and we also get mounts? Why can't they also get skins? And why can't we also get skins?
Yeah.
Why does it have to always be
either or?
Either or.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I'm saying there needs to be a reward structure, not we need rewards for this one group, because you're never gonna get anywhere, and you're never gonna get anyone on your side in this discussion if you go with, okay, the casuals need more rewards, or the elitists or whatever need more rewards. Everyone agrees that there needs to be more rewards. I haven't met a single fucking player, you know, even raider or otherwise, that says, you know what, I think the game has enough rewards. You know what I mean? So like, I think that framing is more productive and would actually get the devs to think about this more, or at least, you know, make changes even.
I think the problem, though, that at least from my experience with the community, is that one of these sides tends to get more irritated that an other side got rewards that they can't get.
Oh yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Like,
but
that's why
it also happens on the other end too. Like you brought it up yourself too. Like, why you get a memento for or whatever for just porting in. You know, is that really what you consider reward?
Not really.
Exactly.
I don't pay attention to it.
But people do.
That's fine.
Right.
I'm not saying
it
that
happens
can't
on both
be a
ends.
thing. I'm not saying that can't be a thing that exists, but why is that the only reward? And it's because...
Oh yeah, I think everyone will agree with you there.
No, definitely not. Because you already see it whenever, like, whenever they add, like, a mount for a trifecta, or they add a skin or something, people immediately start calling it elitist, because they can't get it.
Right, but what if there was something else that you got?
Like, I literally had a PvP friend who was doing dungeon challengers, and he eventually got the personality from Fanglair. I don't remember what it's called, but you know, the necromancer one. And he, instead of teabagging people in Cyrodiil, he would just start using emotes from that personality, like summoning corpses over their bodies and stuff. And he got whispers, "I wish you would just bag me rather than using something I'm never gonna get." Like they actually found it way more toxic.
What? No, I don't know that one.
No,
but did he get banned? Did he get banned?
No, he didn't get banned.
Okay, well, people got banned for teabagging. So,
but it was just really funny.
Okay, but the point is, they didn't get banned. people are getting banned for getting, teabagging people, dude. You know, and in some cases I've heard, and obviously I don't know how true it is, but like, you know how they, so they changed the code of conduct a couple of years back, or was it a year and a half ago, I think. And Gina even had to clarify. So, like, people even asked, and Gina had to clarify. People asked, "Can you get banned for teabagging?" And she said this in a very PR way. I think it was, and the correct way in my opinion. She said something along the lines of, like, we will always look at the context. But then I hear people still get banned for teabagging straight up, even though people don't ask them to stop. Because, like, if someone asks you to stop teabagging and you still do it, yeah, sure, consider that as a harassment. But then if you don't say anything but you report the player and they get banned, that's you know, I don't know about context, you know.
I've always found this a little weird because I personally don't get offended by teabagging. Like,
I don't know, like teabagging.
Do you get offended by teabagging?
No, not at all. Dude,
okay.
people teabag back in Halo, and I was like, whatever, that's fucking funny. It's also a way to communicate, too, you know what I mean? People...
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, fuck. But, like, why I don't... Dude, I've seen, you know, I'm in a couple PvP Discords. And, for some reason, just kind of like how we have copy positive channels in PvE Discords.
They have teabagging channels?
No, PvP Discords have salt channels. Where they post screenshots of whispers from people who they like kill, you know, like, or not even like, you know, initiate conversations with, and you see the most outrageous shit that people whisper to people who kill them in the game. It's like,
right. See, that part I always found really amusing, because if you do that, if you tilt in PvP, you're essentially letting the other player taunt you.
Exactly. Well, why like, get tilted though? It's a game.
Like, you stop playing well because you're not thinking strategically anymore.
Okay.
You're just like a bull that sees red, right? And so then you just overextend, you let your buffs drop because you just want to kill this one player that's pissing you off, and so then you're just more likely going to keep dying. I don't know. So, like, I mean, it's very uncommon that I, as a healer, get hate tells in PvP, but if I do, it's funny to me. Like,
I don't know. I just don't understand that mindset. Fuck it. You're gonna die. Straight up. You know?
Yeah.
Everyone has died or is gonna die in PvP. Who cares?
Right.
Who fucking cares? Oh, man. But, Jesus.
I don't know. Like, me and my friends started just as like a silly, not really superstitious thing, but we do it anyway now, like as a ritual, like teabag the chest for good luck.
Oh yeah.
You know? Yeah, like that's how you're gonna get your good loot. You gotta teabag the chest. I don't know.
Oh,
there is a teabag emote. You know, I bought they put like it was like some nothing cooking pack in the Crown Store a ways back, and it had like a bunch of recipes I already knew. It had like a cook outfit, and the main reason I bought it is because it had the salty emote. I was like, yes, don't tell me that they're not encouraging that kind of shit in PvP when they add salty emotes, and like, what's the one where you like smack your ass or like shake the mistletoe over it? Like, kiss my ass. Yeah, they do that shit on purpose. That's how they're trying to get the PvPers to spend crowns. Oh my god. All the ones I know spend a lot on the Crown Store. I mean, most of the PvPers I know are into housing more than I am.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like, they have really fancy houses. They buy a lot of packs. I've known PvPers who are into, like, the RP and lore aspect even, you know?
Yeah. It's just
this typecasting. It's like, oh, well, you're Endgame, so, like, you're not our main market. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's so weird, because people always think PvPers don't make this game money. It's just like, I don't know about that.
I mean, hell, PvPers tend to spend more on the writing scrolls and the skill points,
the convenience
the sky
shit.
shards.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because they make a new character and they don't want to spend hours getting all that crap again.
Or Undaunted because they don't care about PvE. It's like,
yeah, they're way more likely to buy all that crap quickly. I've never spent on writing scrolls or those skill lines, but my PvP friends, hell yeah, they have. It's like the first thing they do is max their mount. And if they don't have gems for it, they buy crates real quick.
But yeah, this also applies to PvE in game. Like, do you think? I think PvE in game makes a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
For sure, because what do people do, I guess? I mean, in a roundabout way. Like, they sell carries, and then what? They buy crowns from other people.
Uh-huh.
and those
Oh,
people
I've
have to.
I've spent a lot on crowns.
Oh
since they made them tradable.
Yeah, crowns or gold. Either way, you're still buying something from the company. So I don't know. It's always been weird to me that people think otherwise.
I've kept track of how many crowns I've purchased through crown sellers.
Yeah.
And it's almost 200,000.
200,000 crowns.
Since they made it tradable.
Yeah. You've sold 200,000 crowns.
Bought.
Oh, you bought 200. Oh, Jesus
from
Christ.
Players with gold.
I was like,
192,750 crowns. That's how much I've bought since they've made it tradable.
Jesus. What is that in today's currency?
A lot.
Well, what's the exchange rate right now? Let me look at the World Crown Exchange, I guess. PCNA. Oh, it went down.
Did it?
Yeah, that's cool. It went down to 1,000 now. It was like 1,500, right?
Oh, Jesus.
No, it's 1,000. That's cool. Okay. There's someone that sold, 1,000. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, time to buy some crowns.
So if they try to act like, oh, well, endgamers don't spend money on the game, bullshit. We want fashion just as much as anyone else. You know?
What do you think could replace item sets? As rewards.
Do we need to replace item sets?
Well, they're rewards, right?
You mean gear sets?
Yeah, item sets.
What are they rewards for? You mean like for killing the boss, you get gear at the end?
Okay, so like, I see this issue. I don't know many other people who see the same issue as I do, but like, you know how they keep adding sets to the game every patch?
Oh yeah.
There's gonna be.
Most of them are crap.
Well, not just that, but there's almost 600 item sets in this game. And I see that as unsustainable. And it's like, why do you go to dungeons? Right? If you think to yourself, well, I go there for what? The content, okay, achievements maybe. But ultimately, depending on the patch, gear. So how do you solve this?
Right.
So when you said fashion and the rewards and all that, I'm like, well, what could substitute for item sets? And I've asked like a couple other people on other podcasts this question, like, and there's no easy answer. So I'm actually curious what you think.
I mean, like, one of the biggest reasons that people love doing VAS is because they like polyfarming. And whenever they add the Undaunted masks, people farm those dungeons, no matter how old they are, and enjoy doing so. Because they're chasing that either because they want it for themselves or because they want to sell it because it's rare, you know. So that's a good thing. Having the motifs does also get people chasing, you know. So yeah, I definitely think cosmetics can get people to go into the content as long as they're rare, you know. It can't just be
like something you have to farm for.
Yeah. I guess if they add attached cosmetics to like the tries and stuff, people would go for that too, you know, for the challengers of the tries like they used to. Like people used to care about getting the personalities, or
the worm cold personality,
like, the scale collar skin or the ruin skin, you know what I mean? But now they're like putting all their skins in the crown store, so same thing with all their polys.
Yeah, the crown store. That's a different story for sure. Oh man.
Problem is, I don't see them moving them out because it's profitable.
Well, they don't. See, that's another either or. They don't have to move it out. That's the thing.
But then it's also not profitable for them to have to produce double the skins and mounts a year because they want them in the crown store and in the rewards.
Well, then we're kind of going into the territory of customer loyalty and retention rates and that kind of stuff that I don't think can be taken into account when you're looking at a sheet of red or black numbers, you know, like...
I mean, I remember when they first rolled out the daily rewards and we were getting free crown crates. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, everyone remembers
that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved those daily rewards. And then they started giving us like shit potions and food and stopped caring.
Well, I don't know. The tripods are okay. The tripods are okay.
Do you know how many of those tripods I have?
How many of those
Holy
crown
shit,
potions do you have?
Like thousands.
How many? Like 3,000, 1,000, 2,000?
Oh, definitely more in the 3,000 range. Because I don't tank
You
that
don't
much.
tank? Okay, you just store them. Like, where do you keep them?
On my tanks.
Okay.
They just have like bags full of pots.
Jesus.
Same with the crown fortifying meals. I have multiple stacks of
God,
those. Like,
I should
what to
delete
do with
those
this?
meals.
I
Like,
probably should actually.
yeah, what the fuck?
Because they're not even as good as sugar skulls.
No.
Like, the health
Or even the other
recovery isn't
foods.
that big a deal, but whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. It'd be nice if we didn't always get tripods. Where are the spell power pots in the daily rewards, huh?
Hmm.
And I'm really sick of those like Swift pots and the like, the PvP ones.
Oh,
they
yeah,
give
yeah,
that
yeah,
are they're like trash even for PvP. I just delete those.
What do you think about this patch overall? I mean, you're the first one to come onto the podcast after a patch release. After this patch release, so what do you think?
I haven't really gotten a chance to engage with it as much as I would like.
Mm-hmm. Like
I
as a
think,
healer, as an in-game healer,
yeah,
or okay.
yeah. I think it's nice that the healer classes are blown open a little bit, and there's like a lot of discussion about Sorc healer making a comeback, maybe even dropping Plar support completely if you can stack enough weapon damage on the DDs that it'll scale off of weapon damage, so that you can just have a DK support, provide brutality to account for them, things like that. That's kind of cool. It's fun to have things to theorycraft. It's kind of weird for the DD meta to be, and this kind of highlights something that I've talked about with Grog before, and I kind of agree with his theory. So for the longest time, I know like people who've played the game in the last like 2 years are like, oh, mag has always been meta. That's not always been the case, as. And before, when Stam was meta, a large part of why it was meta is because it just had more powerful weapon lines. And Grog's theory was, and this was part of why the Stam variants of Crow and Warden, every time they added a DLC class, the Stam variant was more powerful than the mag one, just out of the gate. And his theory was that when they decided to dehybridize, right? When they decided to make, okay, mag is a playstyle and Stam is a playstyle, well, initially, all of the class skills were mag. They just were. And so they went back and added a few morphs that were Stam only, but not many, because a lot of the morphs, having been designed for mag, actually had two different purposes. And so stealing one of them for Stam kind of felt wrong, and like it would limit the playstyles that class had and pigeonhole them into mag and Stam. And so what they did then is they tried to buff the weapon lines for Stam to compensate, right? Like, so Stam weapon lines tended to be just stronger. Right. Well, then when they added new classes that were made with this design, right? Of like, we're going to have mag and Stam. Every class can do everything. So you can heal, you can tank, you can mag, you can Stam. They would have more just in their kit to offer. So they would have more utility, they'd have more self-healing, they'd have mag and Stam morphs, more Stam morphs than a lot of the base classes did. And they also, on top of that, got access to the powerful Stam weapon lines, right? So it's just, they were just better. And so now what we're seeing is, because they're hybridizing again, immediately everybody's picking up the Stam weapon lines. People are picking up the Stam sets because they're just better. And my hope is that this is the first step in them realizing that and rebalancing the weapon lines. That's my hope. I would also love to see a second mag weapon line at some point, because like they like to act like we've got three. No, it's one line. Just because you equip a different staff element doesn't make it another line.
Okay.
You know, like
But
that
they
would
have
be
different
nice.
effects, you know.
I
They're
mean,
passives, technically.
You're still casting wall. You're still casting force pulse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be kind of cool because that's one of the things that it was something that I found disappointing when I went to play Stam DPS. Is I was like, oh, like the first one I played was Stamsork, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. This is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to pick up another one, and I was like, wait, this is just like Stamsork. I'm using the same skills. Why even bother? You know?
Right.
And that was kind of the problem. And so if they're trying to encourage class identity, you know, I'm hoping that we're going to get a better balancing of the weapon lines going forward. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, no, I like the addition of Nazare. I like the Turning Tide. It's really interesting. I generally like the alt generating builds.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're really fun to engage with as a support.
Yeah.
So
Pearls.
Yeah, Pearls is so fun. I like the Pearls and the MK and the Basai gameplay because it's just a different way of thinking about your resource bar, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. Like, Pearls is one of my favorite mythics they've added because before that, a lot of the mythics they added were just like wildly imbalanced and didn't really have downsides, even though they said there were downsides.
Yeah.
I think Kilt is pretty balanced too. Be disappointed if they nerf that. Because it's
I think it's fine where it is. Oh yeah, I think it's fine. They nerfed it already anyway, in terms of like the first iteration.
I think one of the big things that they need is, so they've been adding a lot of really good support sets over the years, and their tendency with the support sets is to be pretty creative because they're trying to make them all useful. So like we're kind of getting a bottleneck on supports, right? Where we have to put stuff on the DDs because there's too much good shit for us to wear.
Oh yeah.
And with DDs, I don't feel like that's the case. And there have been brief periods where there were situational sets, like Diamond's Victory was really good, and then they just gutted it. Acuity, we lost.
Well, Acuity is situational now.
It was situational before.
Well, even more now.
It has even less situations now, exactly. Yeah, no, I feel like DDs tend to just get, well, this is your set, and this is what you wear because it's BIS, and it would be nicer, I think, especially if they're going to try and increase class identity, if there were BIS sets for class.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, I see what you mean. So
yeah, like, for example, I remember way back, Grog was messing around with Succession. He really wanted Succession to be good on DK, right? That would be cool if that were good for DK, and like you needed like War Maiden or something for Plar. You know what I mean? Just like
I see what you
different
mean.
options.
War Maiden for Plar.
I don't know. It would be fun, and it would make it so that the classes played a little differently too.
But there's also like there's been kind of like things like that, I guess, right? Like ECs for Words for Crow, is for Crow.
EC, no, dude, you
do
not get to say EC.
How about hold on.
Support set.
Succession was Necro, right? Not DK. I'm pretty sure people were testing it for Necro. War Maiden for Magblade.
Yeah.
People were trying to make that a thing. Scathing Mage was a big one for Nightblades.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of how Twisting Path back then, functioned. I think Elfbane for DKs.
Yeah, but the problem is then they just released Basai with the chapter. And
right, and then that just demolished.
Why would you run anything else?
Exactly.
You know, and I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying about the sets. Is like, if they were to add something other than sets, and then go back and balance the ones they have.
They need to, yeah, for sure.
Because the problem is, it adds a lot of power creep, and B, it just kills the DD class identity every time because it's like, in order to get the DDs to want to play the content, you add this insane set that you will nerf over the next 3 patches, but it has to be BIS in that patch to get them to buy the chapter.
But then this is more complicated by the overarching theme of play how you want, right?
I mean,
it kind of is because like, do
I
you
don't
have to have Base? You know what I mean? That's gonna be the argument, right? Like,
well, so the thing that DDs are chasing
is the most
is
damage.
the biggest damage,
Right.
right? And as a DD, you don't want to be losing the DPS battle not due to your own lack of skill, but because the other person has an OP set. That's just frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So I think they do that so they can be on an even level with other people, and then it's just their individual skill with their rotation that separates them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, though. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I'm also gonna anticipate where other people are gonna come from with this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be nice. I don't think every set needs to compete, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's definitely fine for there to be, like, beginner and middle game sets, especially the crafted ones. I actually don't mind when there's, like, a lot of the crafted sets are just good for leveling.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice, like, in the case, like, how we have had very brief moments where there was a really good crafted set. Like, when we had New Moon Acolyte, when we had Diamond's Victory, you know, we had a few moments where, like, hey, or Acuity, you know, we had a few moments where there's like, hey, this set is really good in situations in PvE, and it's also really good for the community, I think, when that's the case, because if you're a new player and you haven't had a chance to farm up a fuck ton of transmutes or fill out your sticker book, you can just go craft this set or find a crafter to make it for you.
Yeah.
And, hey, you know, you're like really, really close to competing.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a misconception where people think we like there being few options, which is like certainly not the case. Man.
I mean, the Endgame community, in my experience, is very, very creative. It's just when they don't have much to work with, you know, like, okay, yeah, you get funneled into, well, this is the best option, you know?
Yeah.
That's another thing I find really common in the disconnect between people on the outside of Endgame who are either just getting into it or have already made the decision they don't want anything to do with it, is they think that everybody just copies and everybody like,
no one tests, no one, you know, checks shit out, you know what I mean? No one reads patch notes.
Exactly. Oh, everybody just goes to Outcast's site and copies Outcast. Well, that doesn't tend to be the end gamers. That tends to be your toxic mid gamers or early gamers. You know what I mean? The ones
the
like
casuals.
the person who told me I needed
casuals.
130k HPS.
The people that tell you to get 3600 CP or you can't do a dungeon. That's fucking crazy,
exactly.
dude.
Exactly.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, because like no end gamer is gonna tell you, okay, you need to do 130k DPS in order to raid.
Dude, it's insane. Have you seen these fucking raid requirements? I talked about this a lot on some streams, but like, dude, I'm seeing fucking. I've been like sharing my next big project too with some people in Berserk, like about the whole like, you know, just getting thousands of raiders. You know what I mean? But like, it's insane. It's insane. Like, these motherfucking guilds are saying you need 100k DPS to do vet trials with us. You need, you know what I mean? It's like you need 90k for VHRC. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up. For the benefit of everybody, just shut the fuck up. Like, please stop doing that shit. Just like, I get that, you know, if you're the raid lead and or whatever, like, yeah, you make your own roster, but like, bruh, please just be like, don't do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, stop telling people you need to do 100k to do vet trials. This is fucking stupid. It's so bad. And then that gets turned. It's the same thing with the whole like, what is it, the 3600 CP shit. That gets turned on us. It's like, I didn't say that shit, but people think I say that shit. You know, it's so fucking annoying.
Because you get lumped in. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, I recently was talking someone down from metrics that they were requiring for healers that I thought were completely unreasonable.
What were the requirements?
Oh, it was like 70k HPS.
What?
In DCR.
What?
And I
Okay.
was just like, okay, just because you can hit that doesn't mean you need to hit that.
What the? Okay.
Yeah.
70k FPS. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. These people just need to like
So
keep it down. You know, like just keep it to themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Just stop telling people to. You need to do this.
one of the things I find that's very, very, very common, and I've seen friends, unfortunately, fall into this trap themselves,
Okay.
is you forget what it was like to be bad yourself.
Oh yes.
You
yes.
forget
yes.
you were ever bad.
Yes.
And so then when you're teaching someone or you're trying to analyze someone, you're funneling it through what you can do now, completely forgetting that you wouldn't have been able to do this if you were in their position. And I find that creates like a toxic disconnect too, because mine is like, if I don't remember, I'm probably going to look up an old log, right? Be like, okay, what was I doing the first time I tried using Zen? Do you know what I mean? And then I'll use that as a gauge of like, okay, if you're hitting around that, then you've got potential. If you're hitting better than that, hell yeah. If you're hitting a little lower than that, then I'm going to like probably encourage you how to use the set.
Right.
You probably don't know. Do you know what I mean? Because like,
yeah.
that's gauging like you're trying, you just need some guidance, versus you just aren't even paying attention that you're wearing this set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that you have these skills on your bar.
Yeah.
And that's something that I find is like really, really lacking, because I've seen people just get like really toxic to people, or like not immediately able to solo heal the first trial they do, not immediately getting 99% stagger on ohms the first time they're doing it, or solo rupting the first time they do it. It's like, well, you weren't doing that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I had a friend who I saw, he was in like a Kyne's hard mode prog, and he was OT, and he wasn't a tank main, he was a DD main, and he was running his face into shit and dying and sometimes wiping the group, and he DMs me. He's like, yeah, I think they're gonna do DB prog after this, and I'm probably gonna drop. And I was like, why? I was like, why would you do that? And he's like, oh, I don't think I'm ready, like I'm dying to so much shit. And I was like, dude, and I named off some tanks who are really good and have since score pushed, and I was like, I was in their groups for their first Kyne's hard mode, and they were dying the exact same shit you're dying to.
Yeah.
Like these are normal mistakes.
Yeah. That trap you're talking about, I think, is very connected with people's egos.
Oh, 100%.
And it's just like, I don't know, man. Oh my god. Yeah, people definitely forget where they come from. I've seen this happen a lot over the years. People think, okay, so you know what I mean, like fucking these people, they were dog shit. Okay, they improved. That's great. And then they end up in like a better group or whatever, or score pushing or whatever. And they just kind of let it get to their fucking heads. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like, shut
Definitely.
the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up, dude. Just shut the fuck up. Please. It's the same. I don't know, dude. It's just so bad. Like, oh my god. Like, if anyone ever... Because to me, that's not really endgame raider. And this kind of goes back to my earlier point. That's not endgame raider to me. Like, I don't care if you're fucking hitting scores or world records. And if you're a piece of shit, I don't give a shit about you. You know, it's just like, you're not the future. You're just not. You're just not relevant to the larger picture to me. And like if people's like, you know what I mean? If people just start drama over shit with people that just may not know better or whatever, and it's just kind of like, I just don't care who you are. I don't think anyone should care who you are at that point. You know, just shut the fuck up and just raid.
I think it speaks to
like
their insecurity.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's insecurity. I think it's just kind of like they lost sight. Like, people forget where they come from, and then they kind of like they just go ham with the ego, and just I don't know.
But I think it's like they're flexing because it helps them feel better. Like, I'm better than you, therefore I'm better. Therefore I'm good.
You think it's insecurity? I don't know.
In some people's case, I think
Maybe. But the majority of cases I've seen, it's just kind of like, they just forgot.
Because I feel like a lot of the players I think of who are just really good, they don't have that problem, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's there's obviously more people who don't have this issue than there are people who do.
Because if you're really good at the game, your actions speak for themselves. You don't need to come in and flex on people.
Right, exactly.
They're gonna recognize you're good just from playing with you or seeing you play, you know? Yeah.
No. I don't want to keep you for too long. So we could transition to questions from chat at this point. If anyone has any questions for Nudel.
No.
Nudel? Shit. Oh man. Oh yeah. I feel like there's a lot more things we talk about though, for sure.
Too bad Ollie overslept this time.
Ollie overslept?
I mean, he's not here. I'm being optimistic and assuming he wasn't kidnapped.
Shit. Would anyone kidnap a British man? Okay,
Are you saying he's not worthy of being kidnapped? That's really toxic.
I mean, the only reason why I would kidnap Ollie is because... No, never mind. Just fuck around. Well, anyway, what's your favorite healer class?
I don't know that I have a favorite class. I have favorite roles. Usually,
Okay.
I like roles that have a lot of max responsibility. Like kite rolls are really fun. Tomb healing's really fun. Like tank healing and Vass. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever class it is, I don't really care. I generally get bored if I don't have a lot to do. You know, if you've got like really, really, really easy buff or debuff responsibility and like no max responsibility, it gets really dull.
Okay. So how did you feel about Scalebreaker then? Because that's when they changed the the multiple orbs to one orb only, the multiple healing springs to one healing spring only.
Yeah,
I hated that shit. That's why I stopped healing.
So I have two opinions about this. So one is I think it made just healing really fucking boring. If you're in some always on sets like SPC and Worm, and you don't have like interesting debuffs, it's really fucking boring because just healing, like they made all your hots really long. They made them really strong. Like just healing is really easy to do, especially if there's two healers both doing that, right? But I feel like because it made healing so easy, healers just looked for more shit to do and started having a lot more interesting and complex builds. Like the builds we have with pearls is because we don't have to sustain 8 orbs, you know, or 10
exactly
orbs.
Yeah.
The builds we have with Zen MK or EC or, you know, like all of these interesting debuff sets is because we don't need two healers spamming orbs and springs.
Exactly.
And that is fun. I hate RO as a set. I wish it would die because I don't like heavy attack. I don't like heavy attack rotation.
I wish it dies.
Boring. I do hope it dies.
I wish RO dies. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Fuck RO.
Why?
It's
just
fun.
2 heavy attacks every like 10
It's
8
boring.
seconds.
And
what?
Because you have to wear Yorv with it too, you get another boring set, so then you don't even get like, okay, I'm in RO, but I'm in EC, so I've got like something more interesting to keep up. It's just you're just RO. You know? And I don't know. I find that boring.
Alright. Fair enough.
I like 2 MA healers more, though it's not always the best option for the comp, and I understand that. Like, I'll run RO if I have to, because I'm a support main. I run what is best for the group, right? I just don't like RO. It's not fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how do you feel about Winter's Respite?
Oh, that's a trash set.
Why do you think so many people gravitate towards the ice healers?
So I think this is something that I've noticed from people coming from other games, particularly other MMOs, where the just healing is actually really hard, and heal checks are more common. They're used to literally your job is to heal. You don't buff, you don't debuff, you don't add damage. You're just a healer, and the problem is if they come to ESO and that's all they do, it is really boring. I've literally had people stop playing the game in dungeons because the only thing they would do is heal, and they would only cast heals when they saw our health bars move, and we'd be in like an Arx Corinium, like how much damage do you take,
right?
And I'd see them standing there and they would just wait for us to take any bit of damage, and then they'd hit a heal, and it's like, well, no wonder you're bored with the game. That's all you're doing. You're barely casting anything because you haven't taken on any other jobs,
right.
Whereas if that healer were to like run pearls, or that healer were to like put on some debuff sets, they'd have a lot more shit to do, and they'd probably find it more interesting. But I think that's why people gravitate to healing sets is they look at it and they're like, oh, this does healing. I need that in my life. Like, people are going to take all this damage. I'm definitely going to need that. And it's like, but if you actually get used to trusting your skills, that's going to translate more into Endgame. Is when you learn, okay, this is how much I can trust this hot to heal people for. This is how much I can trust combat prayer to heal people for. You learn the situations in which you need each, right?
Right.
That's going to be a lot better for you in the long run than if someone puts on winners and they let their hots drop because they're used to winners just covering for it. Right. So then if you get into a trial situation where you need more than the winter's HPS, now you're in trouble because you actually don't know how much your skills hit for, right? Like, how do you heal Baneful if you're used to just having winters heal for you?
I'm gonna make a healer build when Winchesters play it.
Oh my god, please don't.
And they'll get nerfed. Sucker.
When the sticker book was added, I was so proud that my Winters and Hitties sticker books were completely empty.
Jesus. Well, what's wrong with Hitties? Somebody asked about Hitties. What's your opinion about Hitties?
Oh, Hitties is so bad too.
Same thing?
Hitties, I think, is probably fine if you're in a ball group in PvP. But in PvE, it has no purpose. Like, another thing that people don't realize with things like Winters and Hitties is they are target capped. So they're also just bad. Because they don't... So, like, that buff that Hitties gives for reduced cost, that's target capped at 6 people. And it's also really small, and in most fights, you're not going to take advantage of it. And I've seen people say, like, before when it was added, oh, well, it's great to put it on a group healer because then, like, everyone will know where to stack. Dude, you really need a giant circle that takes up half the arena for people to know where to stand?
Yeah.
Just talk to them, teach them, show them where to stand,
Does CPM matter for healers in harder content, as in hard mode trials?
Yes. Very much so. It's one of the first things that I look at when I'm analyzing a healer's performance is not necessarily how high the CPM is, because, well, yes and no. So I will look at the casts relative to the build. So, like, an RO healer is obviously going to have less CPM because they have to heavy. But mostly what I'm looking at is for which casts, what are they casting, and how often, Like, if you want to get good combat prayer uptime on 2 stacks of DDs, you need to be casting combat prayer around, it was 12 CPM. It might be a little lower now because of the extension, If you want to be casting Illustrious so that it has no downtime, we're looking at, like, 5.5. 5 to 5.5 CPM. You know what I mean? Things like that. And that's what I look at. And I think that's really important. Making sure they're not overcasting skills that don't fit the situation. Like, if you're in a stack and burn fight, like Pinnacle, and Radiating is your top cast. I mean, Radiating is fine if you're kiting and you're away from the group, like Vast Group Healing, right? And it's fine to use in scenarios where the group is going to be away from you for a brief time and you want to give them something. Like, say, Valor in hard mode, you want to hit it a few times because the DDs are going up to kill their torturer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to be able to heal them for that time. You want to give them something. That's fine.
Okay.
But if you're just standing there spamming it to make sure it gets on everyone, it only hits 3 people. It's not that smart, so it might target the same people.
Okay.
And in that time frame, you could be casting something that hits 6 people, you know, particularly a ground hot that can swap targets. One of the things that I did before logs, and it's nice for visual, is I would just walk around town casting my skills and like watching the players like in town and who was getting the target. You know, that's how you start to see like, oh, Shrooms is a Kono.
Right.
Combat Prayer is a path, like a wall, right? Like you're going to pick up shit like that. And it's nice to do it in a situation like that versus a trial where like there's so many effects flying around, it might get lost.
Oh, I hope that answered the question about the CPM. Oh, it's a lot to unpack, for sure.
Yeah.
What's your opinion about Adept Rider and supports?
Why would you be wearing Adept Rider and support?
Okay.
What?
Shit. That's pretty funny. Okay. Well, yeah.
Like the only trial I can think of where you mount is HRC. And you don't even need the Major Gallop because you can get it from continuous attack.
Okay. Oh boy.
No, now I'm genuinely curious what group has told them they needed the set. What?
We'll see. Alright, I think this is the last question unless someone else has something. Best dungeon healer sets?
I think...
Winter's Respite. Hades.
No. Get out of here. MA is really good. SPC, if your tank isn't running Olo.
MA?
Yeah, Master Architect.
Oh, what? That's me off.
Oh,
Dungeons.
We're talking about
yep.
dungeons?
Remember, Master Architect is in Fung Grotto, guys.
Dude, I thought we were talking about
secret rare drop
in dungeons.
Secret rare drop, dude. Secret rare drop in Fung Grotto. Master Architect stat.
Well,
shit.
I mean, best sets that come from dungeons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
so Winter's Respite.
Winter's Respite doesn't even come from a dungeon. Do your homework, Nevin. Yeah.
I actually don't even know where he comes from. Where does it come from?
It's
Maelstrom, right?
Skyrim. No, Western Skyrim.
Western Skyrim. What the fuck? I thought it was Maelstrom.
Buy it.
Jesus Christ. Oh.
Yeah, go buy your Winter's Respite.
Oh, Jesus.
No.
Okay. But yeah, what were you saying? SPC?
SPC, EC, Zen. What else comes from dungeons? It's really good. Monster sets, Earthgore, Nazare, Symphony. Yeah, Worm. Worm is good. Worm doesn't get used that much anymore. And it's usually put on a tank when it is used, I find. But a lot of groups are dropping Worm now because if you're running Besai, and especially with the hybridization, people are running more stam skills on their bars, their sustain is too good. So Worm actually makes it hard for them to manage their Besai. But if you're not in a group with a bunch of Besai, then yeah, Worm is good.
Eben.
Oh, dude, we haven't used Eben in so long.
True, but it's I guess it's not good anymore. Man, why not?
The problem
Eben
is
anymore, dude?
The problem is they gave us all that free health with CPC.
Yeah.
And so, like, getting an extra, what is it, like 1,500 health or something from Eben is like nothing. Like, what do you need that for?
Okay. Alright, next question.
Oh, Yorvolds, yeah. I forgot.
Oh, yeah, Yorvolds.
Yeah, Yorvolds is good.
Don't forget the MA.
I thought we were talking about sets you'd use in dungeons. Jeez.
Okay. Well, yeah, true. Thoughts on specific skill uses or set uses for specific fights? Like BRP Resto in places like Basse as an example. could be anything along those lines though, where you only use those in certain scenarios. Like, do you enjoy the use of those skills in those situations, or
Oh,
not
yeah.
having to slot or use specific sets or skills?
So one of the things that I think sets ESO apart as a game, not just as
Mm-hmm.
an MMO, is the whole deck building concept. And this
The
is
what?
deck building,
Like,
like
like the penis.
no, DECK, like a card deck.
Oh, I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh my god!
I thought you were going like a fucking, like, you know, what was fucking?
Yeah,
what
we
was
know
it?
where your brain is. Okay.
The build a bear shops, but it's a build a dick shop.
Oh my god!
Bro, I was like, dick building. The fuck is she talking about? Is she like?
Sex ed for your toddler. This is what it would look like one day, all veiny.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Well, anyway. Okay.
Anyway, but so like when you play like a card game,
Yeah.
one of the things you do is you try to build a deck to beat your opponent, right?
Mhm, yeah.
So ESO is very much like that. This is one of the reasons that Alpha Gear and Dressing Room and Wizard's Wardrobe are so useful, and why console wants them so badly, and we should have something base game like that.
Yeah.
Is because one of the things that's so fun in ESO is trying to figure out, what do I need for this fight? What is going to be best for this fight and for my responsibilities in this fight? And you kind of guess, right? And you might be wrong. You might slot something and be like, oh shit, I actually needed an interrupt here. Crap, And that's part of the fun though. And then when you do hit it, when you feel like everything on your bar was the most useful thing you could have had, it's a really good feeling, right? And so I like that. I like when there's like all of these niche skills. I think it does create like a bit of a barrier to entry, particularly for support, because you need like a lot of skills leveled. But I don't know that that's necessarily the most limiting factor, really. Like as a healer or a tank, usually the gear is the biggest, thing that holds you back, especially since so much of it comes from trials. But yeah, no, I always found that really fun. Even in dungeons, like I would always, like I said, I play support, and I prefer that term to just healer, because I feel like it encompasses more than just healing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you're in a fight where there isn't much healing needed, what do you do to still be useful? Well, if you only heal, you're going to be pretty bored. But if you take on other responsibility, you're still going to have fun,
I agree.
Yeah. So like in dungeons, for example, I would often alt in some damage even before, when I wouldn't just like come as a DD. And I'm really sad that they nerfed it, but Cradle of Shadows used to be one of my favorite vet DLCs, because there was so much you could do fight to fight to like kind of carry the group as a healer. Like you could solo interrupt a lot of the mechanics. You could purge on last boss. You know what I mean? There were so many extra utility things you could run, and that would make the fight easier for your group, and that people don't necessarily expect, And it was just really fun. I like doing those kinds of things, having like niche skills. I mean, back in the day, I used to run time stop in some scenarios, like the Arch Trash. Time stop was pretty good there. Before they nerfed it and made it like hella expensive.
Okay. Let's see. Opinion on heavy attack builds.
Gross. Did you not hear me telling you RO was terrible and I wish it would die in a fire?
Oh.
So even when IA was meta, which I did play at the
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember IA.
The thing that made IA okay is the good healers would cancel their heavy. You'd medium weave, remember? So you do just a tiny tick
with the
just to
staff
get the
too.
debuff. Yeah, you do a tiny tick, and then you'd launch into your skill. You know? And that made it feel more active. It felt like, oh, there's this like hidden feature that only some of us know about, and it lets us still be like very active, and it felt cool. And then they just started taking that away, and then we were like, fuck I.
Yeah, they nerfed it in various ways. They gave Warden minor vuln,
and Necro and Blade.
Yeah, and then you had to fully heavy attack eventually for
heavy,
the full effect. Yeah. All right, last question. I think. Deck building. What do you think of the upcoming card game?
I don't know that I'm gonna play it. I haven't, like, obviously.
I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna become a card master, Yu-Gi-Oh! Fucking card master, Pokemon shit. You know what I mean? Some Digimon.
Like, it's not combat related, and I like was completely uninterested.
It is combat related.
In the companions, for example.
It is combat
related. Please tell me they're not gonna like add skills and shit to it.
Dude, you're PvPing a person.
Oh my god.
Plus, what if they give you like this like really cool like duel system? Like let's say, I mean, I'm just like pulling ideas in there here, but what if it was like a dueling disc or something? You know what I mean? And then you put the card on, and there's a hologram, and there's a fucking monster and shit, and you see those monsters like fight each other.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, there. I guess they already did the idea.
this is not new.
You can play. You can like pit. You know, it's like Pokemon. You can pit.
Okay.
I'm just fucking around. I don't know.
I just keep thinking of auto chess. You know, like in Dota or League.
Bro,
like,
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it because in a way, like it's kind of chill. You know, like it's I've always wanted like card games in the game, like mini games like chess or like checkers or card games like you can play with people at taverns or like I think that makes the world feel more immersive to me.
I've definitely seen people request that.
Oh yeah, I requested it too for
particularly
a lot
the
of
RP
years.
community.
Well, you don't have to be an RP to enjoy that. That's the thing.
No, but I mean, like they wanted that as a feature, like you're saying, so that they could be in taverns,
right,
games, and have something to do, like as an excuse to be there while they're RPing.
Yeah, I could play a card game in Lair Martial Log for sure. Fuck it.
Lol.
Why not?
You actually probably could.
I wish we could. Like, what else are you gonna do?
What if you're like stacking on the door for a raid and someone doesn't want to stack on door because they gotta finish their game?
So Ollie put a message like 10 minutes after we started a while ago. He said, "What? When did it change by an hour?"
Oh my god, it was daylight savings.
It was daylight savings. Jesus Christ.
That's so funny.
Okay, well, whatever. All right. Well,
it got you last week and it got him this week.
Yeah, it did.
Great.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up here. That was a fun podcast. I liked it.
Okay.
Well, do you have anything else you want to say before we end up?
I don't know.
Nothing you want to say for anyone to maybe hear or whatever? Any message out there?
If you're a new healer, learn how to read logs. It really, really does help.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish they'd been existing when I first started raiding. Because one of the things that was really, really hard as a new healer in particular is like you don't know which deaths are your fault, right? Like you just see, especially if you're in a really, really messy group, like, okay, everybody's dying. I'm supposed to prevent people from dying. However, in ESO, there are frequently mechanics that just one shot, right?
Yeah.
Or that had nothing to do with healing, and you have no idea. And so then it can be very discouraging, right? You're like, okay, we finished this raid, we had no vitality, we're like rolling wipes. Were those my fault? You have no idea. If you have logs, you can go through the deaths, and you can look like, okay, what killed this person? Is there something I could have done about it? And the thing is, if it is something you could do about it, now you know what it was, and you can play better next time, which is so much better. And you really can like figure out a lot of the mechanics just by looking over your own logs, you know? Like, when did this damage happen in the fight? You know, look at the replay, look at where the source was, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did the tank lose taunt? Did somebody else have some debuff that they stacked on this person? You know? All of that. And I don't know. I feel like I got into logs out of self-defense.
Yeah, you can see that. Because people don't know what the fuck
everybody
they're talking
blames
about.
the healer, right? Like,
Or the tank, or whatever.
Oh yeah, tank is common too.
Yeah.
And I found it, like, there's so many mechanics that even people who have, like, multiple tries for that trial under their belt, they really don't know how it works because they don't ever bother looking at the logs. And I'll know how it works because I will have figured out in this niche scenario that it killed people, and I'll be trying to figure out why. Like, for example, way back in the day, when I was progging my first, Yuln hard mode, and, well, one of a couple. I don't remember whether it was the first, but I remember I was still pretty new to healing. I didn't have the full, like, SS hard mode yet. And I got into a group where my stack was dying to flare and the other healers wasn't. And I didn't know why. And, you know, from the outsider's perspective, it's, well, you're just not healing enough. Like, this is a heal check. You're letting them die, obviously, right?
Right.
But I was confused because I was like, I'm not doing anything differently than I've done other times I've healed this, and my stack didn't die. And I thought, like, okay, let me see, were my casts missing? Was I actually not casting? And I look in the logs and I was like, no, everything's right. They have resolve up. Like, what's going on? You know? And I sat there with my friend, looking up, because I couldn't figure it out. So I actually roped him in, and we're going through it and figuring it out. And we're like, what it ultimately ended up being is the main tank was learning, and they let low slash fall off. And minor main back then was a lot of mid.
Right, yeah.
We were losing preparation now. It was 15%. And the thing was, just by pure chance, when they would let it fall off was only during my flare. So what would happen, the reason that my whole stack would die together instead of, like, in onesies and twosies, is because what the game does is it checks, this person is going to die. They're going to get one shot because there's not enough mid, right?
Yeah.
And then it calculates each person after that in the same tick. It calculates them counting a person out. So the first person gets hit for, like, 20k and gets one shot. The next person gets hit for, like, 35k because they're like, oh, well, you're missing a person. And then the next person gets hit with, like, 50k, and then the last person gets killed with 80k. And you get really confused death recaps because you're like, what the hell? Why am I getting one shot 80k from a flare? And it's purely that there was missing mid, one person dies, so everybody dies. And they all die together, you know? And I've only come across one other player who knew about that, who knew that that's how it's calculated, and it was a tank main. So, you know, there you go. Like, this happened in a run he was in, and he's just like, what the fuck is going on, you know? But that was really helpful because not only then did I know, okay, it's not that I'm just missing healing, but more importantly, I was then able to talk to that tank, and she just did not know minor main was that important. So she was really overwhelmed with, like, pulling the ads and managing the breath. She was just really, like, in her own element there, and so she let some things drop, and the thing that she thought wasn't that important was low slash, because she thought, I just need it for ulti gen, right? It was just for the minor heroism. And so that let her know, hey, I need to focus this more. And so it's like, you know, logs don't have to be toxic, you know?
I think that was a great feature back then when it came out. Yeah. But yeah, it's really enlightening. I think that's pretty much it, though. But yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast, now. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was. We should do it again.
Okay.
Well, that'll be it.
Just make sure it's not when daylight savings rolls over again next time.
I hope they get rid of it.